To call the South Burlington City Council meeting back to order following our executive session. It's April 17th. And our next item is comments and questions from the public. And I'd like to recognize Donna Kimball first.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Donna Kimball, City Clerk here in South Burlington. I am here tonight to present to you two petitions that I received about a week or so ago. And I'll read the two petition words off, or wording. Petition 1 said, should the name of all South Burlington School District sports teams be the South Burlington Rebels, and should the South Burlington City Council and the South Burlington School Board be required to make official, retain, and maintain the same for all South Burlington School District sports teams. Petition 2 said, should there be a prohibition on the expenditure of funds by the South Burlington City Council and the South Burlington School Board to change the name of athletic teams in the South Burlington School District to anything other than the South Burlington Rebels. On the day that this was brought into our office, we had just over 14,200 voters, which meant that we'd have to have about 710 signatures, which is the 5% requirement according to state statute. Both of these petitions met those requirements. So I'm here tonight to present the petitions to you, and I will be going before the school board as the petitions request on Wednesday night to present them to them also.
Okay, thank you. I guess we officially accept them. Right, but no action at this point.
Whichever. Almost there.
Thank you. All right.
Cheeseburgers conflict, right?
Don't say that.
Good enough, okay. Are there any other public members? Yes. And the owner of
I
our...
know. So
our
I'm
dog
Roseanne
of
Greco.
the year.
I'm the owner, mother of Gina Greco Harmon, license number 38, who is top dog for South Burlington for the year 2017. I'm here officially to thank you on her behalf.
Why couldn't she come in person?
I love these. So far, this is a good meeting.
Yeah, well, that's something I wish I heard.
You're welcome.
It's going to go down from here. No. Anyway, I think I was more excited that she got a hot dog than I was in winning the election for city council. But anyway, thank you very much. And thanks, Donna, for picking her number out.
No, this was above board. We
I
had
know, it was not fixed, I'm sure that.
two uninterested, I guess, or independent teenagers.
I saw that, yeah, I had to watch the city council meeting just to see her number being picked out. Anyway. So thank you very much.
It's in your
On behalf
photo
of Gina.
gallery of
And
children.
we had a lot of goodies that the city gave us that were donated by some of the local businesses, many of which we donated to Humane Society. So Gina came from a rescue, so she wanted to help her buddy dogs and similar lockup and so on. So. Anyway, but the real reason I'm here is I wanted to share with you tonight an idea I had to solve most of the noise around the airport. I've been following your discussions and your actions regarding that. Thank you very much for taking that seriously. For the last few years, I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of reading on military aircraft noise. And the government documents and official documents cite that our situation is the noise primarily caused by military jet aircraft, not by commercial airliners. We all know what's happening because of the noise of the F-16, and we all know that in a few years, a louder plane is going to be arriving here. I also am here because I want to share with you that I've had experiences in my 30 years on active duty in the Air Force with various types of military aircraft. I have flown on them. I have lived next to them, many different types of aircraft. So I bring a proposal to you based on my personal experience with different types of military aircraft as well as the research I've done. So my solution would involve all of the involved parties. The Vermont Air Guard, the City of Burlington, the City of South Burlington, the airport, and the thousands of residents who live around the airport. All of them would win in this situation, all survive and thrive. The solution is very simple. It aligns with Vermont values. It won't cost us anything. It has one small disadvantage, and I've come up with about 15 advantages, including bringing more Vermont Air Guard jobs here. So I know you can't discuss my proposal tonight because it's not a warned agenda item, but I hope you'll put it on a future agenda. And if you allow me 4.5 minutes, I will outline it briefly, and then I'll give you a written report that states my proposal along with all the data I use to support it. And whenever I have a personal assumption or an opinion, I have labeled it as such. So I've timed this, it takes about four and a half minutes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is my proposal. My proposal is for the Air Guard to transition from a military fighter aircraft to another type of military aircraft that is compatible with residential areas such as ours. Other Air Guard units in the United States have done this. They have transitioned to transport aircraft from fighter aircraft, specifically the C-130 and or the C-17. These aircraft produce noise very similar to commercial airliners and would result in little, if any, areas being subject to 65 decibels DNL in our area. In addition to eliminating the harmful noise, the mission of the C-130 and the C-17s are more aligned with Vermont values. Unlike fighter aircraft, which de facto their mission is to kill, transport aircraft's mission is to save lives. So they routinely transport troops, food, clothing, building supplies, other equipment, including medical equipment and medical personnel. Some of them are flying hospitals. Transport aircraft are the planes we use to provide relief during humanitarian missions and disasters. It would be an honor, I think, to have the V-Tank have that kind of flying mission. Can it be done? Absolutely. Basing the F-35 in Burlington was a political decision. Court records show that Senator Leahy strongly urged the Air Force to base the F-35 in Vermont. Senator Leahy can get the Air Force to base a military transport aircraft here just as easily. Why would he do that? Because the reason that he stated for supporting the F-35 is no longer valid. He stated that he wanted the F-35 in order to save the Guard. But the Guard's future is secure whether or not the F-35 comes here. In court documents, the Air Force has stated unequivocally and repeatedly that the V-Tank would always have a flying mission, regardless of whether the F-35 is based at the Vermont Guard. So I am suggesting that the council discuss this proposal, and if you find it agreeable, then draft a resolution to Senator Leahy requesting that he direct the Air Force to replace the F-35 with a military aircraft that is compatible with residential neighborhoods, much like other Air Guard units have done around the, not all, but some have done around the country. We would request he do this because the harm that would come to our city from the F-35 is unacceptable. As I said, other state Air Guard units have switched to transport aircraft. We can do it as well. In so doing, no entity would have to sacrifice anything. Thousands of residents living around the airport will no longer have their health, their homes, and their property values in danger. South Burlington will get to preserve its neighborhoods and its affordable homes and its tax base. The airport and the city of Burlington will keep the Guard, fire, and runway services, and the Air Guard would keep a flying mission. Admittedly, the Guard would not be the first one on the block to get a shiny new, albeit dangerous weapon system. But surely this is a very small price to pay for saving thousands of residents and for preserving neighborhoods of South Burlington and our neighboring cities. So in closing, I'm going to get a little melodramatic here. Last Saturday was the 105th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. So I was listening to news coverage of that, and I was sort of struck by a parallel to our situation here. The Titanic disaster was caused by poor planning and inattention to approaching danger. 1,500 people died when the ship went down. Our iceberg is the F-35, and it will affect 4 times that number of people, over 6,600. Once the Titanic hit the iceberg, there was nothing the crew could do to save the ship or the people or many of the passengers. Reportedly, they played music to calm the people as they were going down the ship. So let's learn from that disaster to avert our own. We have an advantage over the Titanic's leadership. We know exactly where and exactly when the iceberg is going to hit us. We still have enough time to sail around it. So if we do nothing, we may be playing music a few years from now as more houses come down and people's lives are sunk. Sorry for the melodramatic, but the anniversary sort of reminded me of the parallel. So here is my detailed proposal with all the facts, all the data I used to put this proposal together. If you want citations, page numbers, and references for all of the court documents or for the government documents, let me know and I'll be happy to provide them to you. And I can send you all this electronically. I just have one paper copy I'll
Okay.
give the chair if
Thank
you
you.
want to make.
Yes, and I think people want it electronically?
Sure.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
that would be appropriate.
It's on
Great.
pages. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. And again, congratulations.
Can I ask a follow-up? I know it's not on the agenda, but just in the event that it does go into an agenda? Can I ask
Sure.
that?
What is your question?
Roseanne, can you follow up with them, and maybe is there any connection between what you're proposing and the benefit to UDM Medical Center? I mean, so
I none that I know of, but
could be.
there could be, obviously,
I don't
they
know how
chose
many
to have a medical
geographic-
mission.
How many geographic locations have such a close proximity? That's
You know, I hadn't actually thought of that until when I was putting together they are flying hospitals from many places, but I don't know, it might be an alliance that could be formed should they choose that mission.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments from the public on items not related to the agenda? Okay, moving right along. The ordinance codification project. And we have the second reading of 4 different ordinances: fire prevention and fire safety, an ordinance to regulate parades and public events on city streets, an ordinance regarding private use of streets, sidewalks, and public places, and fourthly, an ordinance to regulate unmaintained buildings. We have our city councilor to take us through it.
Good evening.
So welcome, Andrew.
Hello, yeah. Andrew Bullock, City Attorney. So this is this is the public hearing
Mhm.
for
Oh, so do we have to go into a public hearing? Yes.
yeah,
Okay. Would you like that now? Or do
Sure.
you want to do some introductory remarks?
introductory remarks, either way, sure.
Why don't you do your introductory remarks?
Sure.
And we'll go into public.
Sure, yeah, so I would explain this as 2017 batch 1 second reading. As we move through these, so this is the first batch I brought before you a few council meetings ago. As amended and as approved at that time. And once second reading, if you approve them here, after a public comment, public hearing, then they will be in effect at that time.
Okay.
You said first batch. How many batches are in your mind right now?
I've got it scheduled out for about 4 batches currently. So we've gone through 2. I think there may be more than that. I'm hoping end of September will be done, maybe sooner. I'm not totally sure, but that's about where we're at. There's a lot that can sort of be consolidated together. There's a large number still left to do for the codification project, but we're getting there.
Okay.
And for example, the fire safety and prevention, you'll see which ones it repeals and sort of combines into this one ordinance. So it actually, I think it's about 6 or 7 that end up being amended as part of this.
Alrighty, so I would entertain a motion to go into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are now in a public hearing.
Does the council need to take these one at a time in public hearing, go out of public hearing, and then vote on the ordinance, and then take them one at a time that way, Andrew, or do you want to do them
That would probably be
in block?
That would probably be cleanest to do it that way.
Okay.
Obviously,
So
it
we'll
takes a
go
little
out
extra
of a
time,
public
but
hearing each
So
time. So this public hearing then is on
the
fire
fires.
prevention and fire
Or we
safety.
could do a vote on all at the end. Maybe that would be the easiest way to do it. So take public comment on all and then,
In one public hearing.
and one public hearing,
Okay,
right?
so we don't have to go in and out.
In and
Sounds
out,
like-
so just one public hearing and then come out.
Okay.
And then vote on
But we won't vote till the end. All
it.
right.
Right, yeah.
So do you have some comments beyond what you shared with us?
Yeah, beyond the memorandums, I think if we kind of take them somewhat in order, the fire prevention and safety ordinance is by far the biggest, and we have the chief and fire marshal here to answer any questions. We did the one amendment that was asked, which is the smoke alarms amendment, and I can direct you to that on page 9. We added F, which is in an existing wholly owner-occupied single-family home that is not rented in part or in whole, built prior to January 1st, 1994, and with no significant remodel or renovation to the dwelling after January 1st, 1994. Battery-operated, wireless interconnected photo smoke alarms are allowed. Placement and location of the smoke alarms shall comply with sections 16 and 2.
Okay.
So that was the one amendment that was changed from the first to the second.
Okay.
Can I just note that D, letter D, which is the code for ordinance to regulate unmaintained buildings, is actually, are we changing, should it be damaged buildings?
Yes.
In
Yep.
the agenda itself?
Right.
Just
Yeah.
want to point that out.
Yeah, I kept it as unmaintained, so the public was on notice of what
Okay.
the original one was.
Okay,
So when we amend it, we can.
that's going to be part of the amendment. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any comments from the public concerning this ordinance? Or do you want to share anything else about it?
One other thing is
Okay,
to
sorry.
introduce it, there is a motion.
Can we
about-
take that afterwards?
Sure.
So if we go through the public hearing for all of them now, the time to waive the reading,
Right.
wouldn't that be a better, cleaner way to do it?
Sure.
The public, or counselors for that matter, I guess we're part of the public. Tom?
I don't want to open a can of worms here, but for mother-in-law apartments, are they not excluded in this restriction? So if somebody has a mother-in-law apartment, they have to hardwire the, it says wholly owned, owner-occupied.
That's, I think we asked that question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Andrew answer that.
Yeah. So Terry and I prepared these together. Do you have a comment, Terry?
Mother-in-law apartment, the term includes that the person is related to you. So it's a related individual living in your house versus an apartment that you are renting to an outsider who is not one of your blood relatives.
I thought the DRB had a definition that as largely of the space, then you can technically rent to, because how do you define relationship these days?
You don't.
Oh,
Federally, you don't.
okay.
Yeah, but mother-in-law apartment is literal. Otherwise, it's a auxiliary apartment under the fire code rules, not zoning rules.
I guess
Different
it's,
animal.
okay.
Well, does a single-family home imply that does not have a mother-in-law apartment in it?
No. Sorry.
But again, I didn't get clear on that.
Would you like to come up to the table, Terry, or both of you?
I'm not
please?
for or against this, I just kind of want to understand it.
And then just to get on camera, please state your name for the record, and then maybe we can restate the question.
Doug Brent, Fire Chief, and Terry Francis, Fire Marshal.
Great, thank you. So the question is whether
If this ordinance were put in place, and I have a mother-in-law apartment, a portion of my house that I own and live in, and somebody lives in there, am I mandated to hardwire my smoke detectors?
If it's existing, no, unless,
But after today,
but after today, yes.
If you built a new one after
Yes.
today?
It's existing, it's existing.
do we have to, if somebody builds a mother-in-law, they have to register that with a permit through the city?
Yes, yes,
So future mother-in-law apartments will have to be hardwired and will not permit
as it
that.
would with any new structure.
Right, any structure. But what if I had an old house that had a mother-in-law apartment, and I rented out that mother-in-law apartment?
Don't use the term mother-in-law.
But usually what that means is that
Accessory
accessory apartment,
Right.
Just to be clear, from the zoning perspective, about 10 years ago, the state got rid of the term mother-in-law apartment to only refer to accessory apartments.
Okay.
So the owner lives in the main house and they rent it out to somebody
The key
as a
language.
separate living unit.
And that's no longer a wholly owned single-family use then?
no longer a wholly owned, owner occupied.
Owner occupied, single family, this is no longer that.
Right.
Correct.
This is 2 units, basically.
Yes.
So 2 units is.
In the fire world.
In the
In
fire-
the
the fire-
zoning world, it is still a single family, but that's two different worlds.
Okay, but we only care about the fire world here, right?
In this
Right.
ordinance,
Yes.
yes.
Don't take that one.
Don't take it personally, Paul, we do care about everyone.
So I guess my follow-up question is, are we consciously deciding to impose this requirement on future mother-in-law accessory apartments in the
Yeah.
future?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so I guess the question is, if you had a building built, a single-family home built before 94, and you add an addition, which was an, accessory apartment, that would have to be hardwired interconnected.
Correct.
But would it have to be hardwired interconnected to the rest of the existing house?
It's a separate entity.
Separate entity? Okay.
There's a firewall, under building codes, there's a firewall.
It's a firewall, okay.
So it's a separate entity.
Just like in a duplex, both sides of the duplex wouldn't be interconnected with each other, they'd just be interconnected within their space.
Unless they had a common basement?
The common basement, then the detectors in the basement would be tied to each one of the dwelling
Each one of
units,
those,
but
okay.
not to the living room
Right,
areas.
right.
But I think builders, we had our bedroom expanded and the builder automatically hardwired our detector. I mean, it wasn't even a question for us, it was just, it was done.
Yeah, pretty much any new
Right.
construction alteration, they're gonna do it.
Right.
because they-
It's just much more expensive than the wireless solution, so I'm just thinking of that imposition on a.
You don't have a
Well, no.
choice, the builder
Yeah.
has to,
If it's new, it's built, you're building the walls, the wiring's there, so
Nothing
it's,
can do.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's retrofitting old stuff, that's where the expense comes in, and the mess, and then you degrade it. That's why we asked for this exemption for the older homes, single-family, owner-occupied, where they could use the wireless interconnection with batteries, because it doesn't require any drilling of holes in the walls.
Even
well,
if
it's
it's
a
a,
liability issue. It's I mean, we read about, landlords that don't have appropriate, what do I want to say, upkeep of their rental properties, right? And so if you wish to rent out a property, that is your responsibility, is to make sure that you are renting out requirements installed, and that is also to, right?
Distinction just being owner occupied or not. So I definitely agree that makes sense for non-owner occupied rental instances. I'm just thinking we have a lot of exceptions for accessory apartments, and I'm wondering how this will play.
So how do we, so let's say I move out of my house, I rent it. It's single family, right? If I rent it and it was built before 94, it really should be modified to be hardwired and
That's
connected.
right.
Right. So
It's a liability issue.
there's, yeah, so,
And it meets the definition of a public building.
Right. oh, okay. So is that something that we need to publicize or has it already been publicized? I mean, that was a pre-existing condition, right? Pre-existing part of this ordinance was that requirement, that if you rented out a house,
Correct.
it better be hardwired and connected?
Correct. Yes.
is that enforced? I mean, I just think of, you look on Front Porch Forum and people are always saying,
Like the one I just read about.
A house for rental.
On Ivy Street with a basement for rent?
yes,
Yeah, well, the basement for rent picks up a red flag for me, it's a public document, so I'll follow up on that.
okay.
But, I mean, we don't want, now, it could be legitimate, it could be a walkout basement, which
Yeah.
would be fine.
Yeah.
But if it's literally a concrete vault, that's a problem.
But if it were a walkout basement, it still has to be hardwired.
Correct.
And that's your point. Do people know that when they
Right.
rent their house, they're gonna be, I don't know,
As you
swapping
as you know.
for 3 months on the Riviera and someone's gonna
As you know,
come
the
here.
Airbnb stuff has been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah.
And Harry and myself often have conversations about this Airbnb stuff is good, but a lot of people don't understand. Oh gosh, I better notify my homeowner's insurance people, because generally speaking, in homeowner's insurance, there's the fine print that says, you're not covered if you rent. And this might be a rental, and if it is a rental, is it now a public building, which then triggers the different fire codes and so forth. So it can open a whole can of worms.
So what if I Airbnb 1 bedroom, 1 day a month? What is your opinion on that? And I'm still living in the house.
Yeah, But that's actually something the state's wrestling with right
Right
at
now.
this very moment.
Okay, it's a
Yeah.
gray area.
It's very much a gray area, yeah. And we're waiting for the state to come down with what their determination is on that. A literal read is it's now a rental because you're making money off the property.
One,
So it's something that-
one follow-up, and I think I'm completely fine with this, but if it was a small accessory apartment, there could only be one smoke detector serving that entire space, and then interconnected is not a non-issue. It just needs to be hardwired for power.
Correct.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, any other questions? So is everyone satisfied or clear?
Good question.
All right,
Very good.
thank you very much. So let's move
Thank you.
on. Thank you for putting up with all of the questions, man. You always have so
It's a
many.
great discussion, though. I understand it's a great discussion, especially where it goes public, people can hear it. So
Mhm.
that's all it is.
Well, thank you. Okay, the second ordinance is to regulate parades and public events on city streets. So any comments, Andrew?
No comments on this one other than the.
I don't think we changed anything, did we?
Yeah, nothing was changed from first reading to second.
Okay. So are there any comments by the public?
Let's have more of them.
Let's have more. Okay. So seeing no one, we'll move on to the third ordinance regarding private use of streets, sidewalks, and public places. And again, were there any,
No
we
amendments
didn't
to
make
this
any,
one. Yep. No changes from the first to the second. The one comment I did want to make was about the fee schedule and what the permit fees will be. There's no current resolution by city council, but as we're going through these, I think good idea at some point, once we're through them, to come up with a larger fee schedule for many of these separate permits.
okay, right now it's just
But
set
right-
by Kevin or
But right now, there is none.
somebody? Oh, there are none?
Yeah, there are none. You just need to make sure you get one for
Oh,
what
okay.
you do, so.
All right. So, are there any comments or questions from the public on the third ordinance, private use of streets, sidewalks, and public places? Okay, seeing none, the final one is regulate unmaintained buildings.
So the only change here was the change the title of it to ordinance to regulate damaged buildings, which I think was a very good idea to kind of clarify the purpose and intention of the ordinance itself.
Okay, any questions or comments by the council? How about the public? Seeing none, we now need to waive the reading.
Yes, Madam
Go
Chair.
out of, public
Okay, so
hearing.
I'll entertain a motion to leave the public hearing, or close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
So now I think you take them one at a time,
One at a
according
time?
to the agenda, and Tim?
Yes, so Madam Chair, I move that in lieu of reading the ordinance in full, let's see, that the council read the fire prevention and fire safety ordinance by title only, as is provided by the city charter.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay.
So with that, I move that the council pass the fire prevention and safety ordinance without amendment, effective,
Fire safety.
What?
You skipped
what did I
fire.
say? Fire prevention and fire safety ordinance without amendment, effective upon this date right now.
Second? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And I also move that in lieu of reading the ordinance in full, the council read the ordinance to regulate parades and public events on city streets by title only, as is provided by the city charter.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And I move that the council pass the ordinance to regulate parades and public events on city streets without amendment, effective upon this date.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. I also move that in lieu of reading the ordinance in full, the council read the ordinance regarding private use of streets, sidewalks, and public places by title only, as is provided by the city charter.
Second.
All in favor?
So now I move that the council pass the ordinance regarding private use of streets, sidewalks, and public places without amendment, effective upon this date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I also move that in lieu of reading the ordinance in full, the council read the ordinance to regulate damaged buildings by title only as is provided by the city charter.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. So finally, I move that the council pass the ordinance to regulate damaged buildings without amendment effective upon this date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So we have approved batch number 1, right?
Yes, batch 1.
The second reading.
You spoke much more slowly.
I know.
Nice job.
Very nice.
It's really
Thank you
important to get
very
this
much.
enunciated correctly and distinctly.
Okay. Item 7, announcements and
Thanks, Terry.
city manager's report. Thank you very much. So, Tom, do you want to start?
So I, with Tim, attended the Arrow of Light ceremony at the Boy Scouts. That was a great experience. I was happy to be invited there and invited up on a stage as a local elected representative, so that was nice. I attended the school board meeting last Thursday. Also, we had a GMT leadership meeting yesterday, and we're going to talk about it tomorrow at our monthly board meeting. But the CSA got off to a delayed start, but I am going to be coming to you all soon in the next month or two with some really helpful sessions that I hope you'll want to get involved in to offer feedback about the bus systems in the entire region. So that's what I've been talking about before, the next gen transit study that we're committing a lot of resources to, rethinking the entire bus servicing in the region. Other than that, I just wanted to make a plug that tomorrow night I'll be at the I-89 Bike and Ped Crossing Options Workshop at the Holiday Inn at 7 p.m. And also Thursday night I'm going to attend the Community Forum on Heroin at the high school at 6:30 p.m.
You left out the most important part, that they've taken down the old Cherry Street bus terminal. They've dismantled it.
Right.
It's gone. So, anyway.
Does it look okay now? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, it's back to what it was 35 years?
Yeah.
Years ago.
Okay. Thank you. Megan?
I've been most active with outreach to UMall, looking for a home for the Chill Out Center, and so I had a meeting along with Maggie Lugers and Holly Ruel. That's the Chamberlain principal, Holly, what's her last name?
Baker. Holly Baker.
Baker, and Bruce Wilson at UMall, and they have a spot
good.
after there being someone who moved into the spot that had been designated for them. And we also last Wednesday attended, no, it was a Thursday after I got home. That's right, so it was nearly 2 weeks ago, the Rotary Club meeting in order to present the project to them. And I attended the school board meeting last Thursday. And I intend to attend the Heroin Forum this Thursday, and also the Performing Arts Center fundraiser this Friday at the Doubletree. And I hope that everybody can check their calendars and possibly support this event with our own South Burlington High School alum singing Sound of Music. So it should be a really fabulous event.
Should be. Great. Tim?
Like Tom said, I was at that Arrow of Light ceremony for the Cub Scouts. I'd never been to one, I'd seen one before. I'd never seen the bridge ceremony where Cub Scouts magically turned into Boy Scouts. It was very moving, and it was great to be there and support our local PACs. I also attended the school board meeting on April 5th, and then I worked the polls at Tuttle on the 6th, right? And also went to the school board meeting last Wednesday, and I will be going to the forum at the high school on Thursday. And there's a school board meeting Wednesday night as well. Do we need to warn for the fact that there will be 3 of us at the, just to let you know, there will be at least 3 of us at the forum? No? Okay, it doesn't,
It's warned.
okay,
I think they're all warned.
okay.
But you're right, the school board wasn't warned, I don't think, last Thursday, and 4 of us were there, but
We
didn't
never
talk.
spoke.
Yeah, we're good.
I didn't even see everyone
Yeah.
physically. I mean, so I saw Tom because I happened to sit 2 seats away, but I didn't know till the end that you were there.
I'm very quiet.
You were very quiet, and there's someone in between us.
And I just want to note that Marcos did deliver the dinner to Tuttle as they were supposed to, because at the previous election, they didn't hit Orchard. And so we
Oh, so
were
you were hungry
foodless
hippos.
until like
Oh.
6:45, and we were snarking down pizza, and then we got oil all over the ballots.
Oh, this is election
Just
day?
kidding.
Yeah. Okay. I also attended the school board meeting and plan to attend the Bike and Ped meeting, their heroin meeting, and the fundraiser, and would encourage everyone to join, particularly the fundraiser. I think that's an important event to support both physically and financially. So that's all I have to report. Oh, I'm sorry, I did meet with the governor and discussed, yeah, I forgot
Oh, by
about
the
that.
way,
Tuesday.
I forgot.
Well, no, I didn't forget. I mean, I forget to mention that. I was very pleased to have about 45 minutes of his time to talk about issues regarding the Burlington International Airport. And it was an excellent meeting. So I was happy that he gave me the time, and Senator Mazza was there with me as well.
Any
Well, we talked.
insights or?
Well, I think we talked about the restructuring and governance issues, and just our general issues with the airport, and he was listened very attentively, and he certainly is willing to provide some leadership to further those conversations. He seemed quite interested, and I was happy with that, as was Senator Massa, who chairs the Transportation Committee in the Senate. He's sort of Mr. Transportation in the state of Vermont. So, it's a good meeting. Kevin?
Thanks, Ellen. Just a few things. First of all, I really appreciate the council attending these meetings this week, the Bike and Ped meeting tomorrow night, very important as we move toward some type of conveyance across the interstate, which is important for the safety of the pedestrian and bike community, and also for commerce and connecting our community better. Thursday night, I want to give a special mention to our school resource officer, Jeff Favreau, who has really organized this event. I think for Jeff, for all members of our law enforcement and our entire team, it's an important issue to discuss publicly, the heroin epidemic that we have, and I really applaud and commend Jeff specifically for his leadership, but other members of the police department have been involved, and other speakers like a representative from Howard and Steve Leffler from the head of medicine at the hospital will be there. So it's a very important community event, and I'm pleased to hear that the support from the council for that, and also for the Friday night event. City Center for the Arts has put a lot of work into this event. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And exciting. You all got the email, I think, from Cindy Reed today announcing that, do you want to?
No, go
Well,
ahead.
I mean to the public, it's $6.5 million of equity for the Cathedral Square project. So this was the last big and the largest pool of money for the Cathedral Square project. Awarded today by VHFA, the federal tax and state tax credits.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little over about $6.5 million in total equity, which is huge. They will be appearing before your Housing Trust Fund Committee on Thursday to talk about a little bit more that they need for the project from our trust fund, and that'll be up to the committee to hear and recommend there to you,
To us.
and you will make that decision.
No big deal, but I didn't get that email.
You know, I don't think you were on it, but I will forward it to you. It basically is just the numbers.
Helen had mentioned that you all had received an email from Secretary of State talking about travel to North Carolina, non-critical travel to North Carolina, and asked
From Jim Condos.
from Jim, and Helen asked, do we travel there? And Tom and I looked back through our memories, at least since I've been here for 4 years, we've had no staff travel, critical or non-critical, to North Carolina, and I don't know of anything on the plan for this year. We don't travel a lot, so anyway, but I want to get back and let you know the results of that request. So. And what you choose to do with that is obviously a council decision.
Yeah, just so the public knows that Jim had asked us to, I guess, do something similar to what Mayor Weinberger has done for Burlington, and that is to say that there will be no non-essential, as has the state, non-essential travel to North Carolina. Now, what's non-essential, or essential, I don't know, but he wanted us to potentially weigh in on that, but I thought before we had the conversation, you might want to know if we indeed travel, and if it is a meaningful statement or just making a statement. So that'll be up to the council if you wanted to go further, but since we don't
travel.
Since
I
we
don't
really
wanna go
don't
there.
travel,
I'm not going there.
Maybe we should eliminate all non-essential travel just as a general rule.
right.
That's all I got.
I think we probably do, given how little our travel budget is. We really don't have
We
non-essential
have a
travel.
travel budget?
We don't.
Shoot.
Okay, thank you.
All those Hawaii conferences that
Right.
popped into your mind is going poof.
Okay, item 8 is the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval.
Well, I was confused by the February 6th meeting minutes, so
I guess I was
we
too.
have a question? Could we put that under other business? I know this is the third time, but
We can probably give a quick answer while Andrew's here. Yeah, just.
Okay, Andrew, do you want to give us, are you prepared to give a quick answer?
Sure, yeah, it's
I mean, it can be long too, I mean, just an answer, I guess.
So, at the last meeting, there was a quorum, but not a majority of the people that were present. Not a majority of the entire council voted to approve the minutes. So it was a 2-to-1 vote at the time. And so the old common, without getting into too much detail, the old common law rule was that people that abstain, i.e. they're not present, agree to go with the majority of those that are present. So that used to be the rule, but under current state statute, there's courts have basically said that the rule is typically when action is taken, it should be the majority of the entire council, whether or not they abstain or not. So-
because I certainly tried to participate.
Right, and you got.
But I
you
had a
got-
lot of technical problems, including my battery.
Right, so.
My bad.
Right. So the recommendation is for all action items to make sure that there are 3, that there is 3 members that have voted yea or nay on it, one way or the other,
Oh, regardless of how many are present.
regardless of how many are present.
Okay.
As if 5 members.
So then, if I'm understanding you correctly, is it possible to go back to 2 weeks ago and look at the corrections that were being proposed and discuss those?
These
Since
minutes were
we didn't get a
approved.
3,
But let her finish and then.
since we didn't get 3 people voting either way?
No action was taken,
Right.
it's kind of the thought.
Oh, so we need to take action.
So you need to take action again, right? Yeah,
Okay.
because there was no yea or nay one way or the other on the vote with the 2 people abstaining.
Okay. Well, what I would like to suggest to our chair is that we perhaps put this under other business, unless you wish to have Andrew present, and we can discuss it now.
Discuss
Well,
additional
my
changes.
understanding is that since we didn't have 3 people
Right.
voting, that it is still open, the February 6th meeting minutes, and I do not feel prepared to approve them the way that as they appear in our packets this week.
Is that what you're saying? Is that accurate?
No action was taken.
No action was
taken.
taken,
Yeah.
okay.
So
They're yet unapproved.
So we
Yet approved.
don't have
They're still in
approved
draft
February, okay, they're still in draft form. Tom,
I
would
would
like to say
just
something.
not keep you here until the end and
Yeah.
ask the question. On the second February meeting, we approved these minutes. The February 6 minutes were approved by this council. They were. So we voted down amendments to it, but then we accepted the minutes.
We also approved January and other meeting
So-
minutes that had been revised since then, and we put them up to another vote because there was a question. So
Okay,
these
well,
minutes.
let Tom finish this.
So my question is if they've been approved, can we then re-amend them after they've already been approved?
So, I guess I'm not ready for an answer on that point yet, but I think the council can, to later amend minutes that have already been approved, I don't know, I've seen that in practice.
You have seen it.
Or I'm not sure I've seen that in practice before, but.
Well, even here, we did it just a month ago.
yeah.
It wasn't made clear to this body, and maybe that was a defective or non-standing vote. So I just think if we approve minutes, if you have something you really want to say in these things, there's nothing stopping you from introducing it as this is how you feel about those minutes. But I think it's something else to go back and amend.
I
and
understand,
approve.
but there was an
statement.
error, actually, with regard to where my resolution was introduced. It was not under other business, it was actually a warrant item, so that is an error. And I also feel very strongly that when one counselor's comments were given practically verbatim, and my response was limited to a sentence, and I felt that that sentence did not fully capture the meaning of what I said that evening. And in addition, we looked at meeting minutes just a month ago that
I would just say everything you just said, you could introduce as a statement about the February 6th minutes in tonight's meeting. This is what Kevin suggested previously, but if we get into this game where we can continually go back and amend, approve
Well,
minutes.
to be honest, I think that the game was already occurring, and that the new procedure that this body is now using was intended to put that game to rest. And so the minutes that were in question started in January.
So all previous minutes can be amended? So any,
If it's the policy of the council to do that, that could occur, sure.
But I don't want to discuss this now and then later. One of my recollections on that evening was that it was unclear. There had been several weeks of different amendments and corrections, and what we saw before us didn't include some of those corrections, like the spelling of some names. And what I had anticipated, I think everyone did, was that changes had been suggested and approved, and then, but we wanted to see the final set of minutes to then formally adopt them, which is why we're doing the process now with seeing the red line corrections, so that when it's time to correct minutes or approve them, it's clear exactly what we are correcting. And I think that to me is the conundrum on those minutes. I don't think we're trying to suggest, or I'm not, that we can continuously read approved minutes and say, oh, I really wish it had been phrased this way, and change it.
because that was done before an election. So I mean, if we can go back before elections and amend minutes, that's a whole nother. All I'm saying is I yearn for the day when the February 6th minutes are not on our agenda. And I would just hope that we don't get into this cycle of
I would
squabbling
agree.
over minutes. Okay.
And I think we have a process that works going forward. I think we've just got kind of caught in the snag because we didn't approve them last time. So that's why they're here. So I guess Megan's request is to take them off the agenda and go back to them next meeting,
I would,
or do it at the end of this meeting?
this I guess Andrew could answer. They were warned 2 weeks ago with most of the corrections that I had suggested. There was one error where my resolution was under other business, and it was actually a warned item on February 6th, and it was in our packets. So I would like to introduce another correction to what we saw 2 weeks ago. Is that something that we can do tonight, or is that something that needs to be rewarned?
So the minutes that came out in the packets, this, for tonight's meeting, you're saying there's another amendment you want to make
From
to?
2 weeks ago, when I was calling from London,
Yeah.
and I'm going to think back there because it was a good thought. I saw most of my amendments that I wanted us to consider. And those are so they've already been in a packet, they've already been warned,
Yep.
they just didn't get acted upon. The minutes for today did not include any amendments.
Of those.
Did not include your original.
Right, or any amendments. There were, I believe, a couple other amendments too that were in there.
Yeah, I mean, you could take up the amendments this time. I'd remind that the purpose of minutes is it's the open meeting law.
Yeah.
And so the public is on notice of what occurred during the meeting, so that in the future, when they go back and miss a meeting for whatever reason, they can take a look and say, okay, this is the framework of what occurred. This is what the council discussed, and this is what was decided. So those are the kind of the legal requirements of it. From a warning standpoint, whether or not you want to make some amendments to the minutes of what occurred at the time, that's certainly fair game for this meeting.
So if you want to do this now, I would like to move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of the February 6th meeting minutes. I would like to have the February 6th meeting minutes that were warned 2 weeks ago to be brought forward with just keeping the resolution under number 10 as opposed to number 11. And if we need to see that more in detail, I'm willing and able to do that.
I would rather you submit your change to me and
Yeah.
let's go through the process and then we'll do it another time.
Okay.
Because that's the process that we.
Yes, and I think it makes it much clearer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
so
think
I'll
that's
just-
what we're trying to do with our new,
So we know exactly what we're voting on. And that'll be our final vote,
Final vote.
you know, up or down. You know,
So
just-
we should have a special meeting.
Right, I'll bring some more chocolate. All right,
Just wait.
so we have a motion to
Well-
approve the consent, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I just had a couple of quick questions that
Oh.
were related maybe to the financial stuff that we got. So, I don't know, it's not really part of the consent agenda, I don't
the
think.
disbursement?
The disbursements are, or,
But,
is that
no,
what
it
you-
wasn't dispersed.
well, then financials, we're
Well-
going to be dealing with item 14, March
I
financials?
have two questions. I'll ask them and then we can,
Okay,
if we have to break them apart, we will. The first one is there was a statement made, I think, by the city clerk that there's been an increase in access to vital records. And that was bringing in more revenue, although she's not here anymore.
We're talking about that in financials tonight.
We are?
Yes, so that's.
yes,
That's
I
like
think
a
that's the
focus.
financial one.
Okay. All right, the other one was who's leaving planning and zoning?
My same question, so I want to know who's leaving planning and zoning.
Our development review planner, Lindsay Brill.
So
Oh,
then,
bummer.
Is there going to be cake?
do we,
Is there going to be cake?
People leave.
maybe we didn't have enough cake while she's here.
That's right. Okay.
Well, that's too bad.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of February 6th minutes, which will be presented in the May 1st?
Yep.
May 1st meeting.
Second.
So that's second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Number 9, update on public safety communications project, and we've got Chief Brent. Sorry that you've been sitting there for so long.
Not a problem, not a problem. Welcome again.
You guys might want to turn around.
Tom asked me if I would just kind of bring you up to date on where we are with the public safety communications project. And as I was putting together my notes, somebody said, how come you're the project manager? And I can't remember when they said I was the project manager, but I'm the project manager for this, as I was in 2003.
You're doing a fine job.
So anyways, we went out to bid, and the bid was awarded to a local dealer for a nationally recognized company, Motorola. The local company is Radio North. They've provided us great service over the years. They did this project for us in 2003 as well. The owner, John Feeney, has been with Motorola for 51 years, so he's a well-known entity, and they've done a fine job for us. It's very interesting how this is going. So this is the specifications that was written for this project, and this was written based on the 2003 project, and we updated the equipment, was dated in the model numbers and things like that, and this is the document that we were given in return. So there's a lot of reading and there's a lot of information to keep track of. I'm doing about 20 hours a week watching after this project as a clerk of the works or project manager, if you will. And things are really starting to ramp up right now. And I took a few pictures and I'll show them to you in just a minute. But it's interesting because we design our public safety communications systems around what's called a 5-9 project. 5 nines equals 99.999% of the time a public safety communication system is designed to work around. And if you took the 14 years times 365 days that we've had this current project in service, it equals 5,110. And you look at the number of hours in 5,110 days, and it's 122,640. Now, why is this important? Because I figured out what 99.999% actually comes out to. And for us, at the end of the day, 7,358,400 minutes this system has been on the air operating perfectly. What we can figure, if you take the percentage points that are missing from the 99.999, out of that 7 million minutes, 75 minutes our system would have been off the air. And in checking with the folks at Radio North, we've had 2 major breakdowns in 14 years, and we figured just about the same thing. So it was kind of a check and balance in where we should be, and it really made me feel good to think that our system has operated that flawlessly. So what we've really done is recreated with new equipment this process. So right now, they're in the process of installing all new radios in the Public Works Department's trucks. They have 46 trucks or units, snow blowers, everything. So there's 46 at the Public Works Department. Police Department has 21 units. Theirs is all done. Highway Department is about 2/3 of the way done. The Fire Department has 9 units, and we're kind of the last in the pecking order. They're going to do us, hopefully they're going to start by the end of this week on us. Then they'll move on to the transmit site. So in last year and the year before's capital CIP plan, we added for a new antenna project. So we put up this new tower, which is right next to the water tower on Dorset Street. And the associated building that you can see there on the left is where the equipment goes. We'll have some equipment that'll go there. We also have 6 different receive sites around the city. So we have 1 transmit site, and that's the Dorset Street site. So all the messages come out of the Dorset Street site. They're received in 6 different places throughout the city. And that's because a smaller unit can only put out so much wattage, and so it needs to get to the closest unit. So whichever one we have that's closest actually picks up the signal. And we have them spread out unilaterally around the city. They're at the police station, University Mall on the roof, Department of Public Works, Fire Station number 1, they're right out back of City Hall here. There's a receive site at the water tank on Dorset Street, and then at Fire Station number 2 on Shelburne Road. And that's not just for the fire department, that's all 3 services. So all the police signals, all the highway signals, and all the fire department signals are received at all those different locations. And then through the advent of technology, whatever the strongest signal is the one that gets sent through the system, but it's milliseconds. And it's worked really flawlessly throughout the years. The present location of our transmissions is on the top of the water tank, which is just to the right of the new antenna. It's about 125 feet that separates the 2 structures. We'll be taking our antennas and equipment off from the tower, water tower, as soon as the antenna is up and going and ready to start. The little building off to the side there is also, that's the equipment shed that will be decommissioned when we make that move. It's nice because we're doing this radio upgrade, and with the new antenna site and equipment shed, we're able to put the new equipment up and leave the old one on, and then when everything's up and working, we can turn one switch off and turn the other switch on, and we'll be in service and ready to go.
Great.
One of the things that I've been dealing with,
Not again,
what's that?
not again.
Canadian objections, it's really interesting. So about halfway up the state of Vermont, there's a line that the federal government calls the A line. And anybody that has licenses, which we have 5 throughout the city, for police, highway, fire, we have 5 licenses with the Federal Communications Commission. Even though it's only 125 feet away, we had to relicense every one of the radios to move them from the water tank to the new antenna. Couple of reasons. It's only 125 feet away, but yet it's 85 feet taller. And so anything above the A line gets looked at by the Federal Communications Commission, but it also gets sent to Canada to make sure that our transmissions aren't going to be involving units in Canada. And so far, we've had several Canadian objections that I've been working with. This is just a couple of them here. But we are working our way through those. The way that you can work your way through those is we can lower the wattage that we put out, so the signal won't go quite as far. You could change the height on the tower where the antenna is, and we will make it. It doesn't stop our progress. We don't have to stop while we're waiting for the okay. We're moving ahead, and we'll get it. Interestingly enough, when we did this project in 2003, we put the highway department antenna on top of the water tank with police and fire, and just like I'm talking to you right now, we were booming into downtown Montreal. We were doing a test on the radio, and we could hear a guy standing in downtown Montreal, and we were coming through just like I'm coming through to you now. And so that was why the Canadians objected to it then.
So,
And just to let you know, we took their antenna off from the water tank, and we moved it to this one out back here, and it worked perfectly, no Canadian objections at all. So
now New York and New Hampshire don't care if they hear us?
New York and New Hampshire will get vetted by the FCC. So they have control over that. They wouldn't give us a frequency that was going to interfere with anybody in New York or New Hampshire.
You would think they would?
They don't tell Canada what to do, and Canada doesn't tell them what to do. So it's kind of interesting process how it works, and it's like any federal bureaucracy. You just
Except
deal
we're
with it.
working with Canada so that we don't
We are,
interfere.
yes.
We're not saying tough.
No, we're not thumbing our nose at it, no. Radio North is a company, like I said, it's a South Burlington-based company. They're over on Gregory Drive, just to the side of the police department. And they actually had a spare vacancy in that building there, and they rented the whole building to put our equipment into. So this is a number of our pieces of equipment. The things that look like phone booths will be sent around the city, so one will be at the police station, one will be at the U-Mall, one will be here. The ones way on the farther end that are in like open racks, I got another couple of pictures here. The open rack units, those will actually be in the transmitter shack up at the transmitter site.
How long, if we lose power across this entire region, will these things continue to function?
So interestingly enough, this was something that we thought of back in 2003 when we did this. Each one of the locations where we have equipment located all has backup power for days. So,
Battery UPS, or is it?
no, we have a
Generator.
We have a 100 kW generator out here. Public Works has a 125 kW generator there. The mall has a generator that in fact sits right next to our equipment in the same room.
A massive incident where our communications will go down after 5 days, 7 days?
Well, we have a week-long tank out back of diesel fuel that operates a generator here. And I believe they have the same tank at Highway. And Police Station has a natural gas operated generator over there. And the one at the mall is natural gas as well. So each one of our receive sites has backup generation. They do also have a UPS battery supply on each one of them too, so in case the generator doesn't start for some reason, the batteries will hold them. I think the longest battery setup is about 24 hours.
But the 5 sites are redundant.
They are,
So if we run out of diesel fuel before we run out
correct.
of natural gas, we still will have.
That's correct. Yep. So again, this is just a picture of boxes and boxes of equipment. These are all the antennas. These are the new microwave dishes that will be put up, because all of our things are connected around the city. Those 6 sites are connected via microwave, they're not connected by wire. So we have a very reliable signal that way. We also send all of our telephone and our computer stuff back and forth between Station 2 and Station 1 for the fire department via microwave.
And that doesn't affect birds.
No, not at all.
There are 5 sites. Why isn't the airport one of our sites, or is it?
Interestingly enough, the airport has a special unit called a bidirectional amplifier that picks up our signal and retransmits it, that they put in. This was something that we, after 9/11, we said, we think this is something that the state should fund. It was about $125,000 upgrade. We thought it made sense, seeing it was the only commercial airport in the state. We got turned down. We got turned down. So we approached the airport, and when they added the new parking garage on there, they also added the bidirectional amplifier. So our Homeland Security let us down on that one, but
Will it still be compatible with the new?
it will be.
It will
Yes.
be.
Yep. So just some more. We got scads of equipment. Stuff came in on tractor trailer trucks, and like I say, they are working on highway department stuff as we speak. Our stuff will be by the end of the week. The tower folks are ready to go the week after next, and they'll start hanging the microwave dishes up here, and the antenna tower out back here is going to be stripped, and they have new equipment going on it. So it's really exciting. It's moving pretty fast, and
Doug, could you talk a little bit about the capabilities that this will provide? Can you give examples of where, I mean, I think a lot of people look at this amount of technology and say, gosh, can't you just have a walkie-talkie? Talk a little bit more about the capabilities that this provides.
yeah, I can talk about some small ones, and I can talk about some bigger ones. So the redundancy that Helen mentioned is a big thing. Redundancy of the sites and so forth that we receive on, that's very important. Just the fact that the things will be repairable. The way that the equipment is built now is such that so many more parts of it are plug and play. So if there's a problem with it, everything's done on a computer now. If there's a problem with your car, they plug the computer in and it tells them what's wrong. Same thing with the radio equipment. They can plug in a computer and say, oh, part XYZ needs to be replaced. We'll have spare parts on the shelf at Radio North and get us right back in order again. I mean, a couple of small things. This is what our old or existing today radios look like that we use at the fire department. These are the new ones. Now, yeah, it looks fancier because it's yellow, but it's high vis, so you can see it in the dark time. Some of these things might seem really kind of foolish, and I can't believe that they never did it before, but this is waterproof. What do firefighters use to put out fires with water? Our radios have never been waterproof before. Here's a big one. Talk about safety. Intrinsically safe, if you've ever heard that term. So if we were in a gas, we just had a natural gas leak tonight at a home. With this, if you transmit with it, there's a chance it could spark and touch it off. This is an intrinsically safe radio. These knobs, if you got firefighter gear on and gloves, you can't turn the knobs on and off. But these are spread out and they're bigger so that a guy could do that easily. I mean, these are all safety things that really speak to us. And there are a number of other things. The radio is designed with the same temperature rating as our turnout gear, like I talked to you about it in a different one of your meetings. 550 degrees, the radio's designed so that it's not going to melt and so forth. This one would. Those are just some small things, but like Kevin said, the system things, we've added the ability for the highway department to get received at all of the different sites around the city. That's a very important thing for them now. It wasn't when we did it in 2003, and now it is. They use portable radios a lot more frequently. Portable radios for the police and the fire are our lifelines. The police have them queued so that it's assigned, a radio is assigned to each one of the police officers, so when they transmit it, it transmits their name to the dispatch, so they know exactly who's calling if there's a problem. The orange button on the top is an emergency button. If you're in a situation, as a police officer might be, where there's a domestic situation going on or something, and it would really set off a situation for them to pick up the radio and call, all they have to do is hit the emergency button and it'll send out a tone.
We don't have that now?
They do, we don't. Very handy thing, but now the radios are also GPSed, so that if you lose somebody and they've got a radio, we can figure out lat and long on the screen on the back of the, very handy. Something you hope you never have to use, but if you do, capabilities are there. We're thinking that the system design now is such that the system that we're in now is a 10-year system, and we've gone 14 years with it. The system that we're just buying and just being installed right now, we're hoping is going to be 15 to 20 years, and that certainly proves a lot better. It's not that we bought a bad system before, it's just that the improvements, technology, how technology improves, is just gone wild, and it's going to prove to be a real safe situation for our public safety people. And
Did you say when it was going to go live?
I'm hoping mid-May.
Is it going to be Kate? Oh. Because Tom would like to show up.
I'll go anywhere.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
It's,
The
hopefully it's gonna be pretty non-eventful, and it's not very exciting for non-techie people, but it's really exciting, to me, knowing that the stuff that we have is gonna work and work
Yeah,
right. It's
that's great.
necessary, so, yeah.
Cool. Yes,
I just think it's great that we're showing the public what they have agreed to pay for, and I want to thank you, and thank you for putting this on the agenda. I might have missed, I had maybe a short circuit there, but was Helen saying that these towers are powered by natural gas and diesel? Are they hardwired, going back to our fire prevention and fire safety ordinance?
Hardwired as far as.
Tell me more about the diesel and the natural gas.
Those are the
redundancy-
generators.
The
Okay, so
generators.
generators.
Just in case our electricity goes out.
Generators, in case
Emergency.
Green Mountain Power grid goes down,
Gotcha.
we have backup emergency generators at each one of those locations.
So we're triple,
And some of them,
protected.
like the one here, happens to be diesel powered.
yeah.
The one at Highway is diesel powered, but the one at the mall and police station are natural gas powered. We're just in the bid portion of trying to replace the generator down at Station 2. That's a natural gas generator, and we plan on replacing it with a natural gas generator, so.
This is great. Thank you.
Tom?
Tech Park has two energy lines, so if one grid goes down, it stays up. Is that right? The Tech Park area, I'm just curious, does the police station have that same grid redundancy?
I can't answer that. I can't answer that question. The police station has a lot of redundancy things, not just because of their being there, but the computer folks that are upstairs and do cloud services, I believe, and they do have redundancy as far as phone lines coming in from two different ways at the police station.
So do we gain
Tim.
more frequency bands to communicate among all the different entities? So for example, do the police gain a bunch more frequencies that they can talk to each other, and can they be scrambled,
So
encoded some way? or-
Here's the three different levels of radio operation. So there's analog, there's digital, and there's digital encrypted. Digital encrypted is the most secure. The police have the capability for digital encrypted if they need it. They don't use it as an everyday
They have that
practice.
today?
They have that today.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have for 13 years. The fire and the highway are digital capable, but are not encryption capable. So one of the problem areas becomes, and I know this question has come up before from this group, are we gonna be ready if we do a joint dispatch with people? We're gonna be ready, it's everybody else that's gonna have to catch up with us. I'm kind of proud of that piece, but, in the meantime, one of the bad things is that because our surrounding departments aren't as capable as we are, we're kind of dragging them into the future, in that anything they buy will then be compatible with us, and we have to have the ability to, I don't know, there's a term in computer language that you can go back and be able to, we'll still be able to talk with analog folks in Burlington, analog people in Shelburne and so forth. Now, we, in 2003, South Burlington made the choice when we did our project in 2003, that we wanted all our three functions, fire, highway, and police, to be all in the same band. They weren't before. Police was in UHF band, fire and highway were in VHF band. We needed to have all the radios compatible. We have a special channel, we have one of the ones from the FCC, it's called Citywide. And so if we have an emergency here in South Burlington, all the police cars, all the portables, all the highway trucks, all the fire trucks, all the portables and everything can be switched to Citywide, and we all can talk together. And it works really well.
And that's new.
No, we've had that since
Had that.
2003, yeah. But that, we could do that because we made the decision to make all three on UHF. We couldn't before that.
So is the new system then, when it's going to have the digital encryption just for the police?
Just for the police.
Because no one else really needs it.
We don't really need it now. And they switch to it when they're talking about some covert operations and secret information and so forth, or using somebody's name that they maybe shouldn't be using, or wouldn't want aired for everybody to hear. Some of the surrounding police agencies do use encryption all the time, and Trevor has been very firm on the fact that he would rather keep them open channels so that people can listen if they want to, because they often get calls from the public saying, we just saw the police car go by our house, the thing you're looking for is back the other way, you know, things like that, of which if it was encrypted, you're not going to be able to listen to.
I have a neighbor who does listen in on the police radio, and it gives her comfort. It gives her
Yes.
comfort.
In company, I guess.
Well, she's living alone, so.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Thanks,
Not a
Tom.
problem.
Okay, city center update. Alana Blanchard, you're going to be making a public arts selection committee recommendation.
I'm just gonna grab a cable.
Okay.
You need the
I need the.
Oh, no, that was the old one, unfortunately.
That's $2 million there.
Another bond issue. Oh, God. Do you wanna- I'll hold it.
Obviously, our computers are incompatible. This is Doug's next project. It can be, I don't know why we're not using it. It has it. Paul's the only one who knows how it works. And he's upset because we were talking about Canadians earlier, it's not good.
Oh, right. I don't know why downtown Montreal wouldn't want to know what we were doing.
Good
Really?
move, making Malala an honorary
Send
citizen.
information on Paul.
Bravo.
How did they know to listen to downtown Montreal? That's what I want to know.
There was
Talk about
actually a
smoke
reverse of this a few months ago, where there was a broadcast signal coming out of somewhere in Montreal that was going to interfere with one of the VPR signals, where VPR from about Georgia North wouldn't be able to be heard. And so it was, that same communication happened to solve that issue.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, Alana Blanchard, Project Director. And I just want to give you a brief update and introduce the Public Arts Selection Committee, who's here to make a recommendation. So Market Street, the city will be beginning culvert work this summer and construction, full-on construction for the entire street in 2018. And that will then be a 2-year construction process. Dumont the Dumont parcel of City Center Park is scheduled to begin construction in late summer, early autumn, probably late summer, just depending on how long it takes everything to dry out. And then I also wanted to let you know about three big events that we have this week, or two big events and one smaller one. So tomorrow, the I-89 exit 14 Williston Road crossing. Scoping Study is having their second public workshop and options workshop, and they'll be showing various options that meet the purpose and need for the project and respond to the earlier public workshop last winter. And that will be at 7 p.m. at the Holiday Inn, and I have also warned it for committees and the council and saying that while there will not be business conducted of those bodies, that a quorum may be in attendance. Again, that's tomorrow at 7 at the Holiday Inn. And then on Wednesday, the South Burlington City Center Collaborative, SB3C, and this is not so much a public event, but to let you know, they're holding a business, City Center business mixer in the carriage room at the Doubletree by Hilton, and that will be their first event really geared towards businesses in City Center to bring them together and start to have them both meet each other, but also talk about City Center as a business destination. And then Friday night, City Center for the Arts, South Burlington City Center for the Arts is hosting Night at City Center, and I know some of you have bought tickets, so thank you. And they have an amazing lineup. Kirsten Anderson, who is a South Burlington graduate, will be headlining. She is a vocalist and actress and was in The Sound of Music. Bill Carmichael is the MC. He's acted.
Yeah, and sits in nice plays all the time.
He's
Great.
He's in, I believe, in their summer theater, and then he also has been on shows on Broadway and in touring productions. And then Farm to Ballet is premiering, I believe, one piece or two pieces that have never been seen before. And then there are other performers, and Helen will be speaking.
Oh, that's right.
And then there will also be a raffle with a variety of prizes, and they range from a stay at Hotel Vermont to things like ballet lessons or private tap dance lessons. And so if you ever wanted to see what it was like to be Ginger or Fred Astaire, then this is the time to go buy tickets. So that event is a benefit. It's a fundraiser. Tickets are $75. They are offering a special coupon. So if you are under 30 and you want to go, you can go to citycenterarts.com and get a ticket for $35.
Under 30 what?
Under 30 years of age.
That's discriminatory. But that's okay.
Okay.
I'm surprised they don't have a senior.
But anyway, I can ask them about that. But we are having daily check-ins every day.
Your work is never done, Alana. Never done.
I mean, healthy living, healthy living is about.
They did, someone asked you about that today, and so they did make a donation. Someone had donated tickets. They weren't able to come, but they wanted to support the effort. So, and I said, someone emailed to me today and said they were senior and couldn't afford to go, and so they said, well, why don't you give those tickets to her? So I emailed her today. Hopefully she'll be there.
Thank you.
Alana, can you talk about why this is a benefit, why it's being done as a benefit?
Right. So Night at City Center is both the first event that South Burlington City Center for the Arts is doing is to introduce the organization to the community, and also it's the first step in building a performing arts center in City Center that serves the region and is both a creative performing arts hub. It's a community center and really brings the community into the performing arts world and disseminates the performing arts world into the community, and also is about education. So many of the people that are involved on the board are very active in arts education. So from Spotlight, which is a dance production, the Vermont Musical Academy, which works with a lot of youth, and then Centerpoint, which is a alternative education, which works a lot with arts and education. And I know that they had a great conversation with David Young last week. And they were surprised, they were impressed, and so are really interested in how arts affects youth learning. And then if you talk to them about the arts and the profession, how many people from South Burlington go on and become very successful in the arts. So Kirsten Anderson is a great example, but she's not the only example of both on the performing side and on the technical side. So they think that there's a lot of opportunity there.
What is Mr. Carmichael's first name?
Bill.
Bill. Okay, and he goes by Bill instead of William?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to put a little buzz
Yeah,
out there
great.
after the meeting.
Please
Okay,
do.
thank you.
And if you have a Facebook page, they are trying to post every day, and it's City Center for the Arts is their Facebook page, and I've been trying to post through the City Center Facebook page. So if you could share them with your Facebook followers, that would be terrific. Okay, so I wanted to introduce Therese Stratman. She's the chair of the Public Arts Selection Committee. There are additional members here, Amanda Holland, Jennifer Kochman, and then Jean-Sebastien Chalou. Sorry, I knew I was going to do that.
How do you say it? Show-lo.
Show-lo.
Think show-lo.
Show-lo. Thank you. And then Michelle Bailey from the Vermont Council of the Arts, who's also been participating with the committee. And I'm going to step down and let someone else sit up here. Okay, sounds good.
We are here this evening, we're really quite excited, to give you folks our recommendations for the art for the Market Street Restoration Project. We have been meeting since, I believe, May of 2016. Together a plan as far as where we thought the art should be located, and then trying to get the word out to artists to try and submit. So we could switch.
Yeah, just the air.
So the location for this art is going to be located on Market Street, near a water retention pond, right, where the bridge is. And it's a really cool space that's already been landscaped with pathways and such. What we've done is we put out an RFP back in December requesting artists to submit design ideas for a piece of sculpture that would be located in this area. We received 7 submissions, which we then very rigorously went through and basically categorized what we felt were the most qualified artists. From that 7, we selected 3 to put out a model and speak to the public about their project, so we could really get an in-depth feel for what they were trying to
Could you go back to the last slide? Is that going to be a main feeder into the Dumont Natural Park area?
Yes, it is. There will be pathways. Basically, the sidewalk that follows along Market Street goes in where this water retention area is, and then connects to the Dumont Park area, which is, Alana brought us all over there last week, and it's going to be phenomenal. It's a very cool space. So anyway, these submissions were ranked for artistic merit, completion ability, and public quality. The 3 submissions, as you can see here, were presented to the public and ourselves, which made it really interesting because I think that we were all very surprised in having the models to see the models really helped allow us to visualize what was going to happen with each project. After the meeting happened, we all conferred and talked about pluses and minuses of each of these things. And pretty much I think came to a consensus about what we thought were the best artists to choose. And from there, we received about 100 submissions to comments from the public, which we went through all of them and discussed those. And then we also were given some recommendations from the project engineer, Greg Beckos, and took his comments into consideration as well. Through all of this, I think we can switch more. These were so in the end, we feel that Tyler Vendatuli, who is a Vermont artist, is who we feel would best be able to create a really beautiful collection of pieces for the area. The design includes 5 separate geese that are in different sizes and located where those orange stars are on the map. The location of these might vary slightly depending on about how the whole construction process happens, and so there might be some slight changes to that. But that's where the location is, and we're really excited. These birds will be made out of bronze and steel, and then mounted on concrete pedestals that will probably be very recessed into the ground, so you won't be tripping off them. And we really feel that Tyler's work will make this public space a really enjoyable place to come and want to discover. And as a sort of an entranceway as well to the path into Dumont Park. So we're really excited about it, and hope you guys agree.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Raina.
I saw them, they were all fabulous, and I'm just really excited to see that we're really investing in public art, because I do totally agree that art is really a cornerstone to any society and community. And I would just like to put out there that some of these included South Burlington artists, and I would hope that we could somehow highlight South Burlington artists, if not in this project and other similar projects. You're not disbanding right after this is over, and so I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, it's great. Tyler, I don't know how long he's lived in Vermont, but he went to UVM and works at Conant, and I don't know if you've seen any of his other work, but he's done work at the airport. As well as he had a large giraffe that was on Pine Street for a long, long time.
And the rhinoceros,
Which is fantastic.
and at Echo Center,
Yeah.
the fish swarm,
Yeah.
So,
the school of fish.
yeah, we're really excited about this project, and we really look forward to seeing it happen.
Well, this is just our first art installation, correct?
Correct, yes.
Don't we have requirements for all of the buildings? I'm looking to Alana.
Yes.
Yes.
You do.
So this is just the beginning,
Yes, yeah.
so. Tom?
Did you say concrete pedestals? Where are they going to be placed on?
Well, the pieces are made out of steel and bronze, and the birds have feet.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming that the bird's feet will have some kind of rods that will go into the concrete to make them stable and really safe. And we feel that...
so they can't be stolen?
No, no. We really, went over the practical and the destructibility of these different artists, and really feel like Tyler's work was the strongest in aesthetic direction. It's appeal to a wide range of general public, especially children, and feel safe that if they want to climb on the birds, the ones that are accessible, they will be able to do so and not hurt themselves. The birds are going to be very smooth and feel that because of the material that they're made out of, they will have a long life.
All right, any
Out of
other?
the 100 comments, there were only 2 negative comments on the geese. There were a fair number on the other 2, but only 2 people didn't like the geese, so.
So the public overwhelmingly
Also voted
Yes,
for Tyler.
yes.
like the
Yes.
geese first.
The comments were, I did a rough calculation, and I think that there were 76 positive comments about the geese, and it was like 45 or so for the mirrors, and 27 for the what do you call it, the donut and wood. And substantial negative comments about the mirrors, concerned about the trees and
Yeah, falling off, being damaged.
having to clean them. We're gonna have to clean them, and somebody's gonna come along and take them away.
Well, Paul does windows now.
That's right.
He might do glass too.
Yeah.
Any,
So,
sig-
Gone.
any significance to the number 5? Is that just how many? South Burlington has 5 schools. And they're the corner of our great city, so maybe they can each represent one of our 5 schools. There you go.
Well, great, so I need a motion to approve the resolution, I guess, or pass the resolution authorizing the commissioning of art for Market Street.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you very much for your work.
Well done.
Well done, and I think that's exciting. Good, yeah. Is Chris Snyder going to be there?
No, let me update the council. I talked to Chris and Ken today, and they really asked if they could be deferred to a later agenda.
Okay.
They're at a critical stage in a couple things, and I think for them it would be, and for you, it would be a lot more meaningful to get those issues resolved. And so they respectfully asked and apologized
Okay.
several times about, but asked to be delayed to a soon but later date.
Okay.
And it was more than just the Cathedral Square, it had to do perhaps with Garden Street as well?
A number of things right now that are at a crucial point on it. We're at the tax credit meeting today, and the thrill, of course, to get the tax credit. So, but we'll have line up upcoming meetings soon.
All right, that's fine. Well, we're on schedule then. Yay! So, schedule, right. Number 12, council members' committee assignment reports. Are there any reports? Channel 17, I've reported on the last meeting, so I don't have a report. Pat's not here for the airport.
Meetings tomorrow morning. So.
Okay. All right.
And the CCRPC meets on the 19th, so it seems that Chris is going.
Okay, great. All right, so we're completed with that. So item 13 is a general discussion on council priorities. And I know a few of us, myself included, didn't send in all my priorities on time. I certainly thought about them. And as you recall, we'll be looking at the work plan May 1st, but we had asked everyone to get their priorities in. But Kevin and I thought it might be helpful just to have a general discussion at this point of what people are thinking and get a sense of, because on the 1st, the administration will have put together their work plan, because they have stuff that they have to do, like budgets and stuff like that, that's was part of the work plan, and then we can look at integrating our concerns or issues or creating new items. So I'll open it up for, brief comments. Tom, you sent yours in. Can you want to just
Sure.
start maybe and just quickly itemize it? We don't have to debate anything, but just get a sense of what other people are thinking.
So it's 7 items that we can really cross one of them off on the North Carolina thing. So the Community Economic Development Committee, Greg Vaught, he's a local resident. He just has a lot of ideas, and I think that there's a lot in the community that want to be engaged on the U-Mall and other opportunities to make South Burlington as business friendly as possible. So I know I'm hesitant to add another committee. I just know that it's come up at multiple times to tap into our residents' interests. So I would just welcome the notion of a Community and Economic Development Committee.
Right. Or maybe a conversation on how we can take advantage of the expertise that live here without having a committee, but someone they can connect with or be called upon for their expertise. Because I know, related to that, and if you don't mind me just jumping in, I had forgotten to talk about the committee appointments that are coming up. And one of the conversations that I'm hoping the committee leadership group will have, and then will bring to us and we can discuss it, is what really are some of the skill sets that different committees have currently and what they think they need for really assisting the city in moving on. And economic development certainly is one of those, and it might be that some of this gentleman's business expertise is the kind of thing that, let's say, the library could use. So when we think about those individuals that we come across who are anxious to kind of participate and add to their, or add their expertise to different committees, we might even direct them that way versus creating another committee that has a more narrow vision. But we may land on a committee. I'm not discounting that, but I was just sort of broadening that to our thinking about how we market or encourage people to participate in our committees so that they're more robust and really carrying out activities that are meaningful and helpful to the viability of this community. So, I'm sorry.
No, and I know there's history on this, and I don't like treading over ground we've already done, but if there's merit to revisiting this from years ago before I was on the council, it keeps coming up in my conversations. Consolidated collection of municipal trash. I think I've bent all of your ears on this. 2020, Act 148 comes online, and all of our municipal trash collectors, my understanding, are going to be mandated to collect a third waste stream. So I just think the council of this body in 2020 would cast shame upon us for not considering the implications of that for our current service providing. I'm not saying we need to consolidate trash collection or manage trash collection, but we are out of step with the rest of the nation. I heard Tom Moreau say 80% of the municipalities in this country have some sort of coordinated managed trash collection.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm thinking is I just want to start a task force, and again, we have 3 years, but I'd love to get the providers at the table to get an idea of where their concerns are, because I see some real opportunities for efficiencies that could also, if put in place for 2020, have consumer benefit. We could keep prices down. Bio-waste is going to translate to higher costs, especially when you have multiple providers covering the same geographical spaces. I don't know all the details on this. I'm not a trash expert, but I would say that the CSWD, they did wrestle with this, and they concluded, and I pass these minutes out to you, that they don't want to take a stance regionally. They leave this to the municipalities, and they definitely recommended with 148 that each municipality consider this. All I'm saying is we're already doing this as well. Currently, Stonehenge and other residential coordinated, how do you refer to them, as condo associations? Other associations have coordinated trash collection. I'm just looking at extending that to some of our neighborhoods, the Mill, Butler Farms. If we had only one trash truck serving those areas, that would be a third less heavy trucks wearing down our roads, and it'd also be more efficient for both them, because there's economies of scale in providing coverage to one area. Okay. So I talked too much on that. Going down the list. front porch forum postings policy, just this keeps coming up. You mentioned that there was some.
Yeah, I had an issue with a posting a few weeks ago, and I forwarded it back to their member support and said, why did you let this this language is inappropriate in this posting. And they came back with a sort of a half-hearted, well, some things we let through, something. They have rules, but I kind of agree with Tom. I'd like to at least have them in here for conversation and talk about that. There really should be some filters, some.
Right, well, I think there's a broader conversation, that's probably part of it, but when we think about just how can we better communicate with the public, whether it's on, in general, the next issue with City Center, how do we get that word out effectively and receive information back? And I think the Front Porch Forum is, one vehicle, and bringing them in and having that conversation of how can we maybe use it more effectively in ways that they don't envision being used right now. And so I think all of that communication, civil and uncivil, needs to be discussed. And how can we,
right.
really...
And the technology doesn't deploy any graphics whatsoever, right? And that's been a complaint from the past. And it's not that you have to overload with pictures, but sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it can pique people's interest. So if they're moving forward, and they're advertising for a Ruby on Rails developer, if you haven't heard, right? So maybe they're moving towards incorporating some more rich,
Well, that's
media.
what that thing is. I didn't even open it and read it.
Yeah, Ruby on Rails is the
Ruby Rails, I
technology
didn't know what
that enables their whole deployment process. So.
I didn't know what that was. Okay.
Another one I think you probably all heard me talk about, which is exploring the notion of a BTV airport authority to address some of the long-term issues that we've had. I've made my case previously. I can go into greater depth.
Well, and I think the governor is interested in having the conversation.
SB Neighborhood Planning Associations, Ted Reilly piqued my interest on this. It's something that Burlington does. I would love to explore ways that wouldn't cost resources of the city to staff, but ways to give the neighborhoods a unified voice, a recognized voice by the council. So
We have that in our charter.
the standing,
Yeah.
that seems sort of temporary, but I don't know if there's a way to recognize a neighborhood voice by the council without having to staff it. So I'm just interested in
Well,
this.
it could be just encouraging and getting interest to have them formed with some kind of support from the council is yeah, right. I think that makes sense.
Because I think we have it already, in the charter, so it's just a matter of...
Right, and to you, but making it more formalized maybe, so it isn't just a burning issue that they meet for a while and then the issue's resolved and they don't need to talk anymore.
But maybe that's okay too, because sometimes, you don't want to go to another meeting,
True.
right? So having, I think what we saw in East Terrace occur, right, that they were able to quickly gather their resources and put out a questionnaire and get feedback and then have access to us. And so I thought it was actually a pretty successful, test run or real run, dry run, however you want to.
Yeah, it's another way it could be, if they're structured, and consistently meeting, it's another way, I think, could be for the council to communicate to the public in a smaller scale, a smaller meeting, some of our issues. So you can explain yet again what a TIF is, in a small setting and not on camera potentially, or just if people don't want to ask questions on camera, I don't know. But I think it's another way to communicate what's going on and getting feedback.
We have an expert at all of our meetings on neighborhood planning associations, Charlie, who is very involved in Burlington and spoke to this previously. So I just think it's worth exploring.
Sure.
And then the last one, indoor public pool feasibility task force. And I'm not saying South Burlington needs to take it all on, but I'd love to get whoever was responsible for the Upper Valley Aquatic Center down in the White River Junction area to tell us how they made that happen. You know? A donation.
Huge.
How big? Give me
Many
an
millions.
80 million?
Many,
It wasn't
80.
Many.
Many,
That's quite a center.
Well, give me a number.
Yeah.
And so,
I think it was, I'm quite sure it was north of 10.
okay.
Wow.
Right
Well,
away.
that, Greensboro now has
Is that
a,
Sandbar, is that?
a performing arts center that we'd love to have in South Burlington,
Yeah.
thanks to a single
I'll talk to you about it.
resident.
I just always hear about pool interest, and I would love to see a
Yeah.
community pool, so.
I agree. I do agree with that, and I think, I mean, I don't want us to give up on the lake, but we're seeing, I mean, people are avoiding the lake at certain parts of the
Sure.
points in sun. I did
Okay, yeah, you did send yours in
15 minutes
15
before the
minutes
meeting.
before the meeting. Hence, I haven't read them.
Quickly typed it up. All right. The first one was the airport, follow up with the FAA and the Burlington City Council, and to discuss city representation in general. Number 2 was City Center, need for more outreach to the Lake Champlain Regional Chamber of Commerce and incentives for businesses seeking to start up or expand, whether they're local, American, or Quebec, or Canadian businesses. Looking also at the Library and Performing Arts Center, I think more outreach is needed there as well. So I'm just looking for this year. I don't think there's much more to be looking at for City Center, but that's what I see for this year. For the third, new hire in Public Works, bike and ped connectivity would be that person's bailiwick, but this person could also cover other needs. I think Public Works could use perhaps some more personnel, and not only Public Works.
So as part of a work plan, how would you see that playing out? I mean, that sounds like a budget request,
It is a budget
but
request.
is there more to it that, you know?
Well, I guess I jumped down then to number 6, that we have to really work on the HRIP with consideration for contract negotiations and expanding healthcare and workers' comp costs. I really think we have to have some, you know, I'm certainly not here to replace Tom or Sue or, you know, or Kevin or anyone, but just where do our priorities lay? I think we have to really look at that. And I know that they'd be everywhere. So we have to really, you know, do that tough work. And I think that connectivity for bike and ped is one of those things that I see rising to the top. So that's why I put it out there
Okay.
separately.
It's sort of tied into your DPW resourcing though, right?
Yes, yes. Heroin addiction crisis, needed outreach to other communities and enhanced role of restorative justice, corrections, education of public regarding incarceration rates and data. I think we really need to tackle this. I know that we have a very capable police department and school system, and I'm sure also medical teams and counseling specialists here in town. And I think that just bringing more energy to this, it is a crisis, and looking for, I think a lot has already been done in just the last year, actually, with regard to sensitizing the public. And I give a lot of credit to people in the schools for hosting evenings and discussions and movie nights. I think that PACT has done a tremendous job with that. And I also want to put a plug in there, they're having a dinner at 5:30 prior to the Heroin Forum PACT at the middle school before everyone can go over to the high school for the 7 o'clock, I think, beginning, or 6:30 beginning to the forum.
So packed supper?
Packed supper at the
Yeah.
middle school, starting at 5:30
Yeah,
this
and then-
Thursday.
And the meeting for the heroin
Is it
forum
seven?
is at 7.
It's at 7.
At the high school?
Although I have 6:30.
I do too.
I have 6:30 to 8:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 6:30 to 8:30.
I do
Yeah.
too.
But their dinner's at 5:30.
Yes,
correct? Yeah,
yes, and that's over in the middle school cafeteria.
so that would be great.
Yeah, and so, yeah, just however we can, and I think also, I know we don't make the big bucks, and I know that we're busy people ourselves, but I think just being, I have to say that this discussion on the rebel name, I'm going to speak quite candidly here, has really thrown into our arena our role as authority figures in a way, and in a way that I'm not sure that either the council or the school board has had to do before. And I am very actually grateful, and again, people can push back on this. I'm very open to having people challenge my ideas. I'm very grateful that our city manager does not have to be a politician, that he can use his energy to run the city and to manage our staff, and just keep that clear head that every good manager needs. I think, however, that sometimes it is called for that there be some kind of voice that rings out and that represents a city when there are difficult times. Sometimes that is our police chief, sometimes that is our fire chief, sometimes that is our superintendent. But I think there is a role for this council, to be quite honest. We're the elected representatives, and I felt that there was reason for us to discuss perhaps that role in some way. And so when we're looking at outreach with regard to heroin, with regard to other things, I think that we already do attend lots of meetings, but I think we've had a lot of discussion about Facebook, not Facebook. We don't have a mayor, and like I said, I'm really grateful that our city manager can manage and not have to be the politician. And I think that there is a need there for some kind of communication to the elected representation. That's what I wanted to just put out there. So for us all to think about. So when I have outreach, I'm really thinking about the council in a way. Number 5, more visibility for our public transportation. I think this is now time when we're developing city center, and we really want to encourage people to see the CCTA buses, the GMT buses, as a really viable means of transportation that cuts down on our carbon footprint. And to be quite honest, if we can, and I've made an outreach effort to the director of GMT, thanks to Tom, and to really point out that our number 12 bus really connects, and ideally would connect at really critical points, our residents and our workers, but also our seniors and our mothers taking children to appointments, to clinics and places of employment, right? And most of them are downtown, but we also have Kimball that is developing. So I think we have all of this opportunity here to really make visible, to have our picture like Coralie took tonight, where we're not only representing South Burlington. I mean, she should take me stepping onto the number 12 bus at my bus stop. Like I ride the CCTA and you can too. I mean, things like this. Yeah.
So one thing that was starting to gain traction, and I think it fits to what you just said, is I'm really excited about the 21st century bus stop. So starting to rethink what it means to wait for the bus. Now that with the real-time tracking, we can have indoor comfortable spaces with either dedicated screens, hopefully not CCTA, GMT owned, but we can start to think of people watching for the bus on digital screens so they're not out in the elements, in the rain, in the cold, in the heat, and so on. So I think that could raise more awareness, and when people start saying, oh, it's a bus stop in the middle of the mall, or it's a bus stop in Healthy Living, who Eli is completely open to this notion. So that could, it's gaining traction in Stowe. The hotels down there are very excited about the notion of an indoor bus stop, so I don't know if that fits with what you were describing. But,
but also for finding people where they are, which is in their neighborhoods, right? And so that number 12 bus really does. I mean, it goes down White Street, it goes down our beautiful greenbelt there, Kennedy Drive, it goes down Dorset. I mean, there are so many townhomes there, and workers, full of workers, right? And then it takes us to the mall, and now, starting in June, that morning ride will take me downtown, right? It takes us to other employment centers and retail centers. It's a really, I think, we're looking at expansion here. We're looking at City Center and the O'Brien property. So I think it's a really key thing for us to think about our role globally. What kind of city do we want to see in the next 10, 15 years? And how can we, make this, or visualize this for our public, is what I want us to think about. I already did number 6. Number 7, more electrical infrastructure at Veterans Memorial Park. I think that that is something, again, it's a budget item, but I think it also has to do with that, visualization what we can do and what we can become.
Well, that gets connected with your, your suggestion, having been in Austin,
Yes.
with the trucks, the food trucks, and those kinds of happening places. And how can we embrace that or enhance that potentially for City Center or other places?
Yes.
Yeah.
San Remo Drive or
Yeah,
whatever the
I mean,
U-Mall
I think
property
there's
becomes.
lots of opportunities.
Yeah. And then number 8, and again, this came out of the last month, more meetings in our elementary schools and joint efforts with the school board to increase their visibility, the school's visibility. So concerts in the park, we have a wonderful band. Christine Toner is just an amazing band conductor. Theater in the park, they have an amazing theater program at Orchard, the middle school, the high school. Bring that out, let the people see what our wonderful young people do. Maybe even a South Burlington High School student-led co-op in our city center, wouldn't that be fantastic? They've talked about
A co-op?
a co-op, some kind of
what?
storefront. They have all kinds of skills, whether it be tech skills, whether it be,
Oh, so you would go in and shop there for some.
or
some of your
services.
Skills. There might be
Services.
services.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
help me with my iPhone?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So some kind of storefront. I know a parent who has been talking about this to me for 10 years, and it's maybe something to explore. Maybe not as a moneymaker, maybe so. I don't know, that would have to be discussed. But again, bringing visibility to what our schools bring to this community and really making them, have meaning. They already have meaning, but making their meaning visible, making it public.
I appreciate it.
And
A broader
appreciated.
understanding of that.
Yeah.
And appreciation. Good.
Yeah, and affordable housing, I'm just assuming we're continuing. That would have been on there too, but,
Right.
okay.
Okay. Tim, have you?
I just have a few things, and I'll be brief. I'd like some department in the city to undertake a lean efficiency project. And I think Kevin would be best to figure out which department would do that, something to do a continuous improvement type project, to find out a process that they use and do a breakdown on, the value stream of that, and then figure out how to improve it. And then implement that, right? And then celebrate, and award employees with, a luncheon or something like that to cake. I'd also like to start to take action on some of our poorly maintained properties in the city. So it's a beautification project, right? There are some blighted properties. Some are commercial, some are residential, and I don't know if our LDRs have enough teeth. And we could just, discuss this in the future, and I don't know how to go about it, but I think we need to clean up some properties around here. We also
That
have
could certainly be a good conversation with the planning commission as well.
True. Yeah, we also have abandoned properties, all right? So, and as abandoned properties start to age, they deteriorate and they become an eyesore. So the ones that are uninhabited in Burlington, they have a fine that they tack on to property taxes if you leave residential property uninhabited for long periods of time. Also, it would be nice to see our rental properties actually regulated and inspected, and have the landlords have to pay fees for those inspections as well. So we would have on the books every single property that is rented out in the city, and we know where they are, and we put them on a schedule for inspection to make sure they adhere to state regulations, if not our own city's regulations.
You're really saying a rental registry?
Yes, absolutely. I'd also like to see some sort of a building code enforcement. So even though we've adopted it with the LDRs, our stretch code Act 250 building codes, we don't inspect for that, or we don't enforce it at the time, and there are things that are filed in terms of their energy, the RBES statement that they make. We have no idea whether they actually did it or not. And finally, I'd like to continue getting updates from the chief about training for the police and to ensure that they understand implicit bias and that we make improvements in the frequency of our stops for, for the proportion of the population that's yeah.
Okay, well, those are,
You still have to send those to.
I will. I had a counter item, and then I asked Tom, and then I wasn't unsure when you were coming back, and so
You're not off the hook.
I'll send it
okay,
Thank you.
tomorrow.
well, good.
That's fine.
I don't know what I would add, other than I think I would like us to really continue, and I support largely what people have said. Certainly the airport is a big, repairing or restoring or making that a better communication. I'm not opposed to looking at a different governance. I think there's some steps that we need to, and big, important conversations, probably not in the public, to move that along and to see what can improve that for South Burlington. Certainly an approach or a real dedication, continued dedication for affordable housing. I think that's really important, and both affordable and, maintaining what Megan refers to, that I think is a really good, a better term, is that kind of workforce housing that is, two young professionals or one young professional having a place that they can afford to make their first home and have it a home and a property they own and not a condo rental, and grow their family and raise children here and that kind of thing. I also think we need to continue to both support and improve, I guess, all of our committee structures. I think Paul's doing some great, Connor and Coralie, some great training, but I think that needs to continue so that they are really engaged and given the set of information and support that can enable committees to really act effectively and really provide the council with good ideas and vet different things for us and really serve as a kind of almost an intermediary to the public with smaller ideas around different topics that then might become city policy, or vice versa. This is the city policy, and they will really help us translate that into actions and bike paths or swimming pools or affordable housing or whatever, or higher energy codes, those kinds of things. I think that's really important. I also would like us to engage with them about how we can, effectively connect with some of our high school students to take active roles as committee members. And I think that's to start with the committees and the leadership of the committees to embrace that. And maybe it isn't every committee, but how can we really engage that as a I think a potential really wonderful municipal experience for our students, and I think they can lend a lot to our committees and our thinking as well. And certainly the library and their fundraising, that's kind of one of those committees that we need to really think about how we can support that and make that really happen and provide, I don't know if it's our leadership, but I guess it sort of is, to really make the fundraising and the library part really happen. But I like a lot of the other suggestions that I heard tonight as well, so. And I guess I would think about organizing some of the ideas, and I think I've said this before, is sort of, communication. How do we better reach out to students, to the elderly, to how do we communicate better with the public? How do we engage Front Porch Forum more effectively, and so that communication is positive and helpful and fact-based and not just someone, some urban legend that becomes passed around. So I think those are, we have a lot to work on, and I want to be cognizant of, we didn't increase staffing. So with all these new great ideas, we have to kind of fit it into the scope of some of the work. But clearly, if we have our communication person painting walls, we have,
It's a one-time.
one time. I know that. I know that. But I think that's just an example of the kind of dedication that we have, so that when we do come up with some ideas, lean principles, lean process, that I'm sure you can find a department or two who would say, yeah, we'd be willing to do that. We know it's a little more work, it's changing the way we do work, but ultimately it would be pretty exciting to engage and really improve the city. So I think we have that going for us in terms of, can you think about this differently?
Hey, Helen, can I comment on that?
Yes, yeah.
About the painting thing?
Yeah.
This is the breadth of how Corley thinks about things.
Yeah, I mean,
This
it's
room
amazing.
is a statement to the public. This is, notwithstanding the the better working environment for committees, for the council, for the planning commission, DRB, and others, what this says to the public is that this council, this administration care about our public facilities. And if you see what we're doing to make our public facilities more efficient and more respectful of this community as a quality place to live, it sends a message that it's the same group that's going to manage the development of City Center. It's the same group that's going to work with so it could be painting a wall, but in painting the wall, or in putting the sign up, or the windows, or any of the things out in front by Donna's, it sends a message. And it's all part of a broader mosaic, to use an overused term, but that's the way Corley thinks about stuff. And so I think it goes in part, and it's kind of thinking in different terms about communication.
Yes.
It's all good.
No, this room
It's really great.
is beautiful. It's beautiful. And it does. It makes me proud to be sitting here. And I feel even more important somehow. I don't know, although I'm not.
Right.
But I just wanted to say too that I came home to find all these beautiful banners
Yes.
hanging. And I was just, yay,
And there are more to go.
yay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Tom?
I just wanted to remind, a year and a half ago maybe, Helen, you raised a notion, and I just wanted to tack on the list as well, that I would love to have some sort of event to thank all of the committee members.
Oh, right, yes.
And one easy to deploy thing, UA does this, so does GMT, just Lake Monsters game. It'll cost about $1,000. I know money doesn't grow on trees.
And it supports the lake monsters.
And it supports the lake monsters, but I don't know if
They are thinking about it.
Okay, great. Invite all the city council.
Yes, I mean, that's another part of the communication, so, I mean, we need to put that in there too. It's so easy to come up with ideas and so hard to make them actually work, but,
Or it could be our Little League, or it could be, we could think about South Burlington too, locally, and we could, have hot dogs, right? I mean, we have now this beautiful Veterans Memorial Park, right?
Did you say hot dogs?
I said hot dogs.
And cake.
Chicago
And
hot dogs.
okay. All right, well, that's a good start, so we will filter or write down, I guess you have a couple in written form, and I'll write some up, and I'll remind Pat, and we can move ahead with a work plan and have further conversation.
Do you have others? Just shoot them over to me. We'll get them all on the list.
Great.
I think supporting the sports teams is really, that would be cool, over at the high school.
What's that?
A picnic over at the high school with our football team or lacrosse, or, that would be cool.
Okay, March financials. Tom?
Yeah, so we're just 3/4 of the year
I
complete
know,
here,
so-
and we're looking pretty good. The revenues are at 90%, the expenses are at 66%. Those expenses will draw closer to the line of revenues as we go through the next few months. So our managers are in forecasting mode right now. We've asked for them to complete projections for April, May, and June by the end of this week. And then as a team in finance, we'll look at that and see where we expect to end up the year. As you know, we're concerned about some of the revenues from our major sources of revenue, from fire inspection and from building and sign permits. And we need to make sure that that's balanced out on the expense side so that we finish the year strong. And we'll make sure that we do. The forecasting helps us do that. And not to be repetitive, the managers have put together narratives that we sent out on Friday. I think, again, they've done a pretty good job kind of outlining where things are either out of line and why, or good and why. And but I'd be happy to respond to any questions that you have. I know, Tim, you had one about the vital records.
Yes, that was in Donna's narrative, right? And I was just concerned that, I think I saw in the news where there are a few impediments in certain city halls to getting vital records for people that are used in impersonations and identity theft and stuff like that. I want to just make sure that we have the correct. Yeah, so I don't know which vital records you're talking about. Are they birth certificates or?
I believe some birth certificates, marriage license copies,
And,
death certificates.
Do we know who's asking to access those, or are they individuals?
I can find out from Donna what the policy is on that and have her send that off to you, Tim.
'Cause I really fear for, individuals or companies that are reaping benefits or profits or sending this data somewhere where it shouldn't go. And I don't know what is needed to stop it. If somebody either should or should not be allowed to have access to some types of information.
Or we should track who's getting this at least.
Right. I'm just concerned about that. Because anytime you see a blip, increase in access to certain types of data in city records, that makes me nervous.
Yeah, she's not real high. We're at 75% and she's at 82, for the vital records. So it's fairly close to where she projected we'd be. But
These are public records.
But it's a good question.
All this is public records. So you can't withhold a legitimate public record request. So that would end up being a state legislature issue, which is legitimate.
Right. But for example, I can't walk in and find out what the actual paid property tax is on any residence in the city. I can't find that out because that's a protected piece of information, right? So if somebody receives a property tax adjustment, right, I can't see what their actual tax bill is. I can see on the grand list what their property tax assessed tax is. But nobody knows what anybody else.
No, you could connect. Why don't we talk about that offline?
Oh, yeah, so I'm just making that point that there are some things that are protected, and they should be, and so I'm just asking the general question, are there other things that should be protected as well?
Yeah.
So, the other question I had was, so the property tax bills went out they were due March 15th, right? The last installment. So, but then it showed that your property tax revenue was at 90% in the line item? For the revenue?
In terms of what we've received?
Yeah.
Yes.
So does that mean there's 10% unpaid property tax?
That's correct.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I just wanted
It always becomes 100%. No, it does. So anything that's not collected by June 30th is accrued. And we have to account for that in the accrual for the next fiscal year. So that's something that we look at with Martha right up until the end of June, and determine how much of it remains uncollected. And we've got a pretty good track record.
You see-
I mean,
You get pretty close to 100% every.
we're really close.
And then you
I
also
think of
have-
all the Chittenden County communities, we're probably the highest in terms of percentage collected. So she does a good job.
But you also have a line item budgeted for fines, right? And-
Correct.
And interest.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's a guesstimate each year, but it's kind of based off what the prior year is. And
I mean, I rarely see in the free press tax sale notices, legal tax sale notices for the city of South.
right.
I see them a lot for outlying towns,
Mhm.
Very few here.
but not here.
A related question, so I see that we've actually collected 96.39% of our property taxes, right? But what's dragging down the total tax revenue percentage is the local option tax, which is only at 62.82%.
Yeah, so we'll have,
Don't we get that late though?
yeah,
Three chunks.
we'll have between, we'll have the February to May, so in the middle of May, we'll have another payment. And then we'll have that small portion between the middle of May, around the 9th or 10th actually, to the end of June, that we don't actually receive from the state until the end of August.
Right.
Then it gets, part of that gets credited back to the FY17 fiscal year, and then anything over July 1st gets credited to the FY18 fiscal year. So
Tracking okay at 63%?
we are,
Okay.
yeah, that's about where we should be. Yeah.
So when the state sends you that local sales option tax amount, do they break it out line by line in any way, or just say, this is the
Lump sum.
lump sum? And have they had any communications with you about the component that would be represented by the Amazon, state sales tax that they're applying?
So Andrew continues to have conversations and we're still trying to get the right answer. I think it's easy to calculate on the statewide basis because they can see if you're from Vermont, this is what the state tax should be. I believe there's 11 different local option communities, and I'm not sure how that could possibly get tracked. But maybe there's a way for them to do it. We're trying to understand it, and we're hopeful that there is. But we're going to continue to work on it.
Amazon's not fulfilling their obligation, right? They're supposed to be charging sales tax on all sales through Amazon that would be taxable in this state. And I think they're not there yet.
Yeah.
Just letting you know
I
that.
think they have to be by July 1st.
By July 1st, okay. I mean, there's some things are that
Yeah.
weren't before, but they're not
Yeah.
100% there.
There's a practical issue though, and this is what Andrew's talking to him about, I think, which is, how do you determine what would have been purchased? It's easy to determine, well, what would have been purchased in South Burlington
Versus Burlington or
someplace
Williston
else.
or.
So how do we collect our 1%, I think is your question, off of an Amazon sale? How would we determine what would have otherwise been purchased in South Burlington, for which we should get that 1%? I don't know how they would do
Well,
it,
probably should.
but that's
should
what
be
we're
just
talking
re-lit.
about, the tax department.
Right. I mean, the state of Vermont should be very clear.
It's different than
This is
income
such
Yes.
or property.
nugget of a problem, right? Because every sale that's made over the internet, from the state of Vermont, not just Amazon, but all those companies should be obtaining our sales tax if it's ordered from out of state and sent back here. Every single one. Internet sales tax, right? To level the playing field for retail, right? The federal government's not on board yet, but I think they're on their way, but I don't know, right? So it's just that question. It's like, you have to trust Amazon that they're extracting the money. You have to trust them that they're forwarding it to the state of Vermont or to any other state that's requesting it. And I just don't know where the transparency is, So
We finally figured out what to do with people like me who have a craft business and do craft shows in 5 or 6 different towns. If I do a show in South Burlington, I have to declare how much I earned in South Burlington. If I do a show in Burlington, I have to have that as a separate item now. It used to all be lumped together. Now we do it individually by towns. So you do get what we got. Oh, yeah.
So does that mean more paperwork for you, Sue?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 It's okay. At least it goes to the right place.
Good point.
But it took them a couple of years to catch up with that. And I got accused one year because I live in Burlington and did not do shows in any town that had a local option tax, got this really ugly letter that you owe this, 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 and this. I said, yeah, I may live in Burlington, but I did not do any shows anywhere. And there was this very strange silence from the woman when they realized there was no way they could track this. And it was interesting, but they have now broken it down so that communities do get what we should be getting.
That's good, yeah, that's good. What's the Green Mountain Passport?
It's a service that Donna has, that if you're a senior, you can purchase a Green Mountain Passport card that would get you into Red Rocks Park or Oak Ledge Park, and you don't have to obtain a separate fee at each one. You just show your card, and what we do at Red Rocks is we track how many of those come in during the course of a year. But any of the local clerk's offices sell them, and it's kind of a neat way to get seniors out enjoying all the different parks in the region.
Is that similar to what Maggie was suggesting at the last meeting?
Yes, yeah, and that's when I had said, well, we have the Green Mountain Passport, but it's only for seniors.
Well, what's the definition of senior?
I think for the passport.
Not under 35?
I think for the passport it's 60.
You're not under 30.
60?
I think for the passport it is.
50?
60.
60, yeah.
So we're ECHO members and Shelburne Museum members?
I can do it.
City relationships,
Don't
so
rush
we go
it,
all
Tim.
over.
Yeah.
I'm not
I'll
trusting
trust
you.
rush it.
I'm just always asking.
It ain't as good as it sounds.
Oh, wait, it beats the alternative. Okay. Do we have any more questions about the March financials? Okay, thank you very much. And I think the reports from each of the directors really helpful.
Good.
For managers. 15, we can consider convening as the South Burlington Liquor Control Board to consider a large number of
I move we
applications.
convene as the South Burlington Liquor Control Board.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Great, so we are now convened as the Liquor Control Board, and we have quite a few.
Claire's sells alcohol?
Wine.
Wine?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
It's very
It's
Parisian.
good to know. It's good to know.
okay.
And there's a new replacement for Tilt?
That was my question. So Smokies low and slow. And
Yeah.
one issue, the memo in here says they need an inspection, and it was from April 13th. And so I don't know if that should hold up our approval of this, but the email from Chief Brent, says they need an inspection. Is that something to pause us on this?
Yeah, I think everything that's listed there means that Laura has everything completed at that point. I know they were doing inspections as of Friday morning. They were still finalizing, getting the information.
There's a lot.
So, yeah, there was a lot to do.
So that should
It should-
prevent us from
you're good.
approving this, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And is Halyard the replacement for Infinity? Down at,
Oh, how
Halyard
you're
Sheriff?
No.
I don't know.
Wasn't it Farn?
That was farm, huh? Yeah. I don't know.
What's the name?
Just curious.
Halyard.
Halyard
Halyard Brewing.
Brewing.
I didn't, can you search that stuff? It's really-
No, I wish we had a control F too. on these things.
We're not the last line of defense here. This has already been vetted by multiple eyes, and so this is somewhat perfunctory. We're just proving this.
It's a requirement for them to get their license. Annual requirement.
And they're not on this list unless you would have pulled them out.
That's correct.
Okay, so I guess with that assurance, do I have a motion to approve all of them?
I move that we approve all of them.
I'll second. You have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, a motion to come out of the Liquor Control Board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we're now to item 16, which is other business. And we had two items. The first was the email concerning the residents on Kirby Road and their attempt to get bought out, and this sort of, I think, a mix. I read it as sort of confusing. I had thought the airport had said we're going to offer buyouts to whomever we wish. So I personally was a little surprised.
This is Lily Lane or just Kirby Road?
No, this is 50 Kirby Road. It's not, as I understand it, one of the original, I guess, 39. But then, when I went to the meeting, the sound mitigation meeting.
With Doucette?
No, this last one.
Oh.
They did say that it isn't really 39, there's some more, because, as I heard them, if you were part of the last program but didn't take them up on the offer, you still could be part of the offer.
Yep.
So could be, I don't know how many people in the original or the first buyout opted to wait, I want to have my son finish high school or whatever the reason was, or I'm not ready. And I don't know how many of them are ready now.
So they didn't give you a number, they just said it could be more than 39?
Well, they said, as I recall at that meeting, that there were at least 44, right?
Yeah, but as you
But
point out,
but then they said, because I was trying to, when I was quizzing them about, so when does a grant end and you can't use that money to buy out any more homes? So when is that official? The answer I got was unclear. It sometimes takes a really long time, and then Jeff Munger said, sometimes if you have the grants too long, the federal government will claw back. They call it a clawback, and they take the money back. So you don't want that to happen, I guess. But it still wasn't clear to me how many houses, frankly, are still able to be bought out with the new funds that they just received, or have access to draw down. They don't really get them. And the old money that they haven't used up.
Can they show you, or show us, contours where the houses might fall?
I think they're within the original lines. Some of
Yeah,
these that,
I mean, it's the original 65 line. Was
But
that
how
first
could it go
buyout?
above 44? Because I thought that 39 plus the 5 from Shamrock or whatever, that they included all of the homes that had received the original offers but had not yet accepted. So I'm not quite following.
Well, then I guess
What
I
does
don't
that mean?
understand why 50 Kirby Road got the mixed message.
I think what's happening with 50 Kirby Road is that the current 75 line,
75 or 73?
73.3?
73.3.
Well,
this is the 75 line, I think.
that's what she said, yeah, in her email.
Touches the property.
Touches the
Touches the property.
Little sliver.
And so she believes that affects the marketability of her property. And she would like the airport she would like it to be considered to have her home purchased under the airport buyout program. I think the airport's response was that the city of South Burlington has made it clear that the council doesn't want any additional homes to be eligible to be purchased. And so the airport's saying, we are not going to purchase your home seemingly out of respect for the position of South Burlington City Council. And so the owner of the home is appealing to the council, I think, to approach the airport and say, oh, this additional one would be okay with us.
Well, and I think they
I think
were
that's the
caught because last fall, they did get a letter from Nick saying, oh yeah, we're happy to buy it, let's go ahead, we'll make you an offer, we'll talk about it. And then now, they're saying, well, the city of South Burlington won't let us follow up. So once again, we're caught as bad guys. Possibly.
So,
But our resolution was kind of clear that we weren't going to have an impact on the 39 plus whatever, right? So
Right,
This isn't one of those 30.
but this
This is
isn't
not
one
one
of
of-
those.
This would
any
be
of
an
those
addition.
ones? Right.
No, they're just on the edge.
So we kind of drew a virtual line in the sand.
We did,
And this one is on the other side of that,
right,
all right? But they would like to be purchased, but,
right,
okay.
they would.
But so why were they given the signal that they could be purchased?
Well, I guess that was before we had passed our resolution and they had adopted it.
And do you recall
Or they had agreed.
in our discussions, this notion of humanizing the line?
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember that discussion about,
Right.
well, you know, if there's a good reason to buy it and there's in another grouping of homes, then we just add that even though it might be
Right.
outside the line?
Mhm.
Well, this property might have qualified actually under the notion of humanizing, but now it does not, seemingly because of the council position. So, be that as may, this is one property and the owner is saying that the marketability is being affected because they're in limbo.
Well, and the other piece is we have a verbal agreement, I guess, or understanding by the airport administration in the city of Burlington that they won't purchase any more than the 39 plus 4. But it's a verbal. They haven't, there is nothing in paper that formalizes that. And so that could be so I think, you know, on these kinds of things, we can get sort of caught in the middle here.
and the verbal was at the sound mitigation meeting, or was?
I think the verbal has been at various meetings.
Yeah.
I know the mayor said to us, he doesn't like the program, he doesn't want to buy any more homes. Gene Richards has said it in public sessions as well, I don't want to buy any more homes. But there's nothing on paper. So an individual such as this one might reasonably say, are they going to buy more homes or they're not going to buy more homes? What's the status?
Right, and there's nothing formal. I mean, it's just this gentleman's agreement in a sense. And we had that before. Oh, we're never going to have another buyout program. Well, lo and behold, we have one. So I guess we can discuss or suggest that should we take the next step and develop an MOU of some sort that Burlington would sign that says, this is what we've agreed to. No more home purchases beyond this 39 plus 4.
Plus 5,
And I guess I, put it out there. I mean, we can't.
It sounds like we don't have to. The airport's doing the work for us. Because they've told this homeowner that they're not interested in their property because we passed a resolution that says that we don't want them to buy any more homes. And they publicly stated that they don't want to buy any more homes. The airport director and the mayor.
Right.
So it sounds like they're abiding by a resolution. Right?
It does sound that way to me
So
too.
if that's the business that they're taking up, then it sounds like the resolution has had some effect.
Oh, I would agree.
Right? So.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of where Helen is on this. This has been kind of a rocky road over the last pick a number. I think having clarity between the communities through an MOU that memorializes the statements that the mayor and the aviation director and this
Okay.
council have said, and just for once and for all, put that issue to rest for us, for the city of Burlington, and for the neighborhood, is not a bad thing to have.
No, I can see that.
Because
Yeah.
this has been, things kind of move a little
Shift.
bit. And so I think having an MOU that again memorializes that is probably a good idea.
Is that a legal contract?
I think that it could, I think it, I'm not, we have to talk to Andrew a little bit about this, but it could just be a memorandum of understanding that the two communities sign and commit to. It may have a clause in it that allows it to be reopened under certain circumstances, but at least it's an affirmative written statement that we're not going to do this anymore. Other stuff maybe, but we're not going to do this.
Tom?
I don't mean to shift away from the MOU, that makes sense, and I think we should go in that direction, but part of this conversation, one thing, it's a very naive question, but I would just like to ask it of a qualified engineer that we have confidence in. If a sound wall were built to dampen ground noise, would that expect to have an effect on these bubbles, so to speak? I would just like somebody, I know we can't stop the noise from the air, but would this 75 DNL with a ground wall be expected to be affected in the FAA model? I would just like to know that for our neighborhood should know that too. If a ground wall could in fact have a measurable and anticipated effect on
I
those
don't think they include obstacles in the FAA and computerized
Model.
model.
But I heard when the houses come down, then those models are extending further into our neighborhoods.
No, that's the experience, the lived experience of our residents. So I know, I've heard from several people.
It feels noisier.
That, yeah, and so I
So the answer is a wall will not affect the noise.
wholeheartedly support initiatives and what you're voicing here, to have a berm and then a sound wall at the southern concourse, because I believe, because I've seen it in other communities, so it must have some kind of real tangible benefit.
Well, and
that
that's
it
what you're
would
asking
benefit
for.
our,
You're
it would
saying-
benefit our residents.
Somebody who I have confidence in.
It ought to have
Yes.
a tangible, it ought to
Yeah.
reduce the sound to those homes.
You know, if you, on this exact issue, we were talking about this today. When the Kirby Road homes are taken down on the north side, per your point, Megan, on the south side of the road, those folks might presumably have more noise.
That's right.
However,
And a view.
if you had a berm, that might be enough to compensate for the loss of homes
That's right.
for those property owners.
That's right.
And since the berm could potentially be free, so, but we've been down that road and all somewhat. It's not completely down the road yet, but for those borderline, that now borderline people, it might have an actual effect of just maintaining it where it is.
You're confident the FAA model does not count in structures?
Yes. They've
It
said
does,
that.
it takes into account topography, but
Right.
not structures.
So berm would be a topography.
Well, if it,
You
if
think
it
so?
were present, well, it takes like the, behind Lily Lane, there's that.
That's a good point.
The gully,
Right,
Yeah.
it takes into
Berm is a
account.
ground swell.
A berm is a ground, that's a good point
Yeah.
that we should question.
Yeah.
You know, I think I have talked to our kind of resident, I'm not going to say amateur because I think he's extremely knowledgeable, but George. George thinks that a structure like this can be effective.
Oh, does he?
Somewhat. And I asked him how high would it need to be?
Berm
He
and
said
or-
28 feet.
Berm and or wall, or just berm?
Well, when I talked to him specifically about a berm, and just to clarify something too, because this came up at an airport commission meeting, and they've, that I'm gonna go next week and correct the record with the airport commission, but there is a DRB re-review of an application for the taxiway project, that I asked for. Because the new plan calls for larger holding areas at the north end of the runway that extend almost to the fence. And if you've got a large airplane like an A320 sitting there waiting for a clearance, and they push the throttles forward, that's going to spew whatever's behind it through the fence, across our property, actually, we own the property there, and out onto the road. Airport Park, and possibly across the street. So I asked Paul if we could bring the issue back to the DRB and have them re-examine that issue, and the DRB agreed. And they're of course not happy about that, but in that, the reason I bring this up, in that area, I think the only thing that would work is an actual, not a berm, but
blast wall.
a blast wall.
Yeah.
A blast
Deflector, blast deflector.
Because of the
You don't want to just blend it
thrust
in.
from is just gonna come over the top, whereas with a wall, it'll stop the debris. And so that's the issue. So we're now talking differently about a blast wall and a berm. But in that small area, my request is that a blast wall be considered, because this is gonna affect public safety.
So would DRB invoke technical review?
I'm not exactly sure what, they have asked for a re-examination of the issues.
But getting back to the MOU, what, from this woman's letter, I mean, one of her concerns certainly is, well, you know, I want to sell my house. And I just don't know what's happening at the airport. Am I going to get bought out or not? So it looks like I'm going to try to get bought out because I don't know what's going to happen. Seems to me that she's probably not the only person who's like, wonder what's going to happen. But if you did have an MOU, which again, it may not, it wouldn't necessarily prevent buyout in the future, but it seems like it could give someone a certain amount of confidence that unless a lot changes, there won't be any more buyouts. Like, this is it. So if I want to, you know, move my bedroom down to the basement and redo that so it's quiet and I can sleep, I can invest that money and be able to sell my house for whatever it is that I've invested in, or, you know, close to it or something. So I think it might provide a certain amount of comfort to some people. Some won't buy that. They'll just, you know, it's like, it's going to happen and I want to get out. But
I think you put the finger on it. I mean, this is what I think we've been hearing, is people want clarity. They want to have some kind of certainty, and I think the MOU...
I mean, it's the clearest we could get. I mean, we're never going to get, it'll never, ever, 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 ever happen. And I'm not even certain we want that certainty, frankly, because it may be.
Yeah, you want to have confidence that in who's saying that we're not going to buy any more homes. You want to take that at its word and believe it. So that's important to put in writing.
Yeah, I think so. And some people won't believe it, but, you know, but other people, it will be enough confidence that they can at least feel like, okay, let's just make the decision and stay here, or let's just sell it on the open market and see what happens.
So I go one step further in your analogy, and this is what I see a lot of homeowners struggling with, is do I want to throw $2,000 into my basement, improving it or not? And that flux, they don't know.
Right.
So they need some of that certainty to live their lives.
Yeah. I mean, even if they end up having to sell, at least it won't be tomorrow. Or they won't, or we won't get stuck with an offer. Here's an offer that you can't refuse.
Those hardwired, interconnected smoke detectors and carbon dioxide detectors are not cheap. Conversion, just so you know that.
And I'm really grateful to you for putting that amendment into our ordinance, because I would have been faced.
So, would you like Kevin to pull together or think about an MOU, develop it so we can have it as an agenda item for review?
Yeah.
Does that sound, I mean, it doesn't mean I'm asking anyone for their vote right at the moment. and we certainly would want to hear from the airport commissioner on this issue.
And we will we'll put something together for you to consider.
Okay. The bike path, the other email. I will just tell you from my experience on the city council, and you may have run into the same concern from the same gentleman. This was raised when I was first on the council, when we had a different city manager. And it went on and on and on. And it's, I mean, the issue, I guess, is concern about the trucks going up to keep pick up the garbage on some of the walkways. And at the time, we had Justin come in and explain why that was important. It made it more efficient, and they could, you know, clean up much
Do they have
more.
beeps, or do they have
And
some
they,
kind of?
they try to be very sensitive to when they slow down around a curve and to beep and do things like that. So his testimony at the time, and we can have it again, I'm okay with hearing it again.
No,
But this
just
is
wanted to hear
a
this.
gentleman who has complained before. And he was never satisfied. I'll just,
I hate treading over ground already covered, but I was gonna say, let's throw it to the Bike and Ped Committee to see what their thoughts are on this notion, but if this has already been discussed, I'd love to empower them with a task, so to speak, if they have some thoughts on policies.
I think they're going through some prioritization. I mean, I haven't been now in over a month, maybe, so maybe they're beyond, but they.
well, I mean, it certainly could be a topic for them to discuss. I was just putting it in the context that this is,
Have we had any accidents on the bike path with the
I
DPW
don't
trucks?
believe there have been any. I mean, Justin made, to my mind, made a reasonable case that they take every precaution, that it is effective to clean up the garbage and to do it in a short period of time with, you know, he's not overstaffed.
Do we need to put cones out ahead of the path?
I mean, but then you have it moving, I thought of cones too, but then you have a move, I mean, we could close the bike path,
Is it
right?
just-
You could put it at either end and say closed for trash collection, and then you pick up the cones when you're done.
Is it for like litter collection or bags that were?
I think it's the receptacles, I believe.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
understood, yeah.
Do you have any?
Yeah, I would say with all respect to the resident, who has every right to approach this council, this is the first time in 4 years I've heard this complaint. Your public works director has said they use all possible precaution to do this in a way that is going to be safe for the public. I am unaware of any accidents that have occurred. I think, were we getting a statement from the committee or from a groundswell of support from the public that says, hey, this is a dangerous situation? But that's not the case. And so I think that with respect to the individual, I think that there's not, that the council or the administration can't chase every single possible
Right. It doesn't rise to the
issue
level.
in the city that might be a cause of concern to a resident. We don't have, none of us, including the council, have that capacity. Public Works Director is, and our fire chief and police chief are comfortable with how we're doing this now. And so I would say we're doing what we can.
Right. I think it would be very different if we had, you know, a number of the public sharing the same concern and citing what they consider close calls and a dangerous situation.
We have 18,000 residents here, and I think in this case, we're doing a pretty good job picking up garbage. We're not a garbage, we're not a garbage pickup organization yet.
I don't want to buy the trucks, I don't want to hire. But if we're going to address individual resident complaints, I think that letter to the other paper this week about our public indecency ordinance I mentioned it to Tom.
Oh, I got that email.
Oh, I didn't get an email.
Do you know what the state law is? Well, the state law is if you walk out of your house totally naked, that's legal.
You can't
It's,
unrobe.
you can't unrobe in public. So I think this gentleman's concern is covered.
Because that came out in,
No pun intended.
He's saying our municipal ordinance is gender bias and that females can't be topless and men can. So I'm not saying it is worthy of our attention, but it was in the paper, maybe our lawyer should.
Well, I think you can walk out of your house without your shirt on as well.
Mhm.
You can walk out of your house dressed in any way you wish,
Anywhere.
anywhere.
We just
And that
saw
is
this
legal.
last year, remember?
So, you know, if you know you're going to play football and it's skins and shirts, and you're on the skins team, I guess you can dress that way at home.
This is great information to know. I'm gonna take this to heart. Don't tell my wife.
So,
You have initiative over there.
but I will get back with him and explain the
compulsory
state
is-
law, and I think we've got it covered. All right.
That's good.
Okay. We didn't have any items from the consent agenda because so,
Can I do
Oh,
one thing
sorry.
or other business before
Yeah,
we get away?
yeah.
May 6th is Green Up Day
Oh, yeah.
for Saturday, May.
Let me do that.
We were thinking about, do we want to kind of rededicate the building
Yeah.
with all the improvements? Tom came up with what I thought was a
Oh,
great
cool.
idea, which since we have a crowd gathered out here that
Uh-huh.
morning, why not do it that morning here
Nice.
and just, you know,
Ribbon cutting?
have a ribbon cutting for all the new improvements in the building and offer tours for people if they want a tour.
Sure.
But there'll be a bunch of people out here.
Mhm.
Tom thought it'd be a great thing to do the ribbon, take 3 minutes and
Bring your garden to City Hall, we'll cut the ribbon.
we'll cut the garbage. We'll cut
Right.
something green. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yes, I do too.
Let's do it. Okay, thanks.
Excellent, okay, good. Consider entering executive session, do we need to do that? To discuss real estate issues where premature disclosure may put the city in a competitive disadvantage.
I could have 10 minutes maybe.
Okay. Sure. All right. So, do you have the language?
This is the one for
Pretty much.
civil litigation.
It's this real issue is to find that premature, to discuss real estate related matters.
Okay,
where
so,
premature.
yeah, so I move that the council make a specific finding that premature general public knowledge of discussion of real estate
contract
matters, to which the public body is a part, clearly places the public body at a substantial disadvantage.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then now move the board into executive session for purpose of discussing real estate matter, to which the public body is a party.
With Tom and Kevin.
The Tom and Kevin.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we will not be coming back. We will not be taking any
I'll let you know.
action, so.
Correct.
Thank you,
the-
Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks a lot,
Okay,
Charlie.
can you believe it? We're almost on time. Do you want to keep this as a
These all the motions
sheet
that
mail
you
for
were.
everyone as well?
Yeah,
Right
we'll
along.
keep a file on
This
everything.
is the first one, I just changed
Wait,
civil
you
litigation
go- okay,
to
I
real
do
estate
that.
matter, that's all.
These are all the ones from the.
Yes.
Don't,
I mean, this is like a resort.
don't wish you were.
I just can't get over it.
No, but